This is 5 Live Formula One with Jenny Gow.
Good afternoon and welcome to our coverage of round 10 of the Formula One World Championship. It is the British Grand Prix on BBC Radio Northampton. Formula One World Championship. It is the British Grand Prix on BBC Radio Northampton and across the BBC network. The klaxon just ringing out, 30 minutes to go until the formation lap, and I'm down here on the grid. You can hear what's going on. The kerfuffle as drivers get onto the grid, their cars. You can hear the ice machines and the fans just blowing to the right of me to try and cool everything down because it is steaming hot. And to talk us through this race, we as ever have our commentary duo of Jolyon Palmer, former F1 driver, and Jack Nicholls. And Jack, this is what it's all about. This is the summer of sport. This is a festival atmosphere, and it's just frankly amazing.
Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful to be at Silverstone on this beautiful day, and we were just watching the cars go round to the grid, and the grandstands are packed and the cars are making their way round to take part in this 52-lap Grand Prix that could be huge as far as the World Championship is concerned, but sort of enough about that. It's just that the spectacle in itself is so fantastic to be here and such a pleasure to enjoy.
Yes, Tom Cruise is just having a chat with the Mercedes team. He's been across Formula One, he's been at Wimbledon, he's been at the Euros. He is well into our summer of sport. Maybe he'll even go to the Olympics. Who knows? It's Tom Cruise, he can go anywhere. It's mission possible with him.
The other thing is, Jenny, he's so cool, he's wearing a jacket. How is he wearing a jacket? It's 29 degrees.
Do you know what? I almost didn't recognise him. I thought it was Anthony Davidson because they look so similar. So I'm glad that my producer was able to whisper into my ear, that's Tom Cruise. He's smiling at the cameras, but I think what he's actually doing is saying, please stop taking pictures of me. But he is probably one of the coolest. Oh, he just has a little fist bump with Lewis Hamilton. Lewis Hamilton in his suit looking very relaxed, very happy, kind of a purpley tie-dyed baseball cap on, and the fans erupt as they see him. Jolyon, there's nothing like it, is there, being a British driver at the British Grand Prix at Silverstone?
No, it's such a spectacular event, and if you're British, the home support has just been wonderful for all three of them. Lewis Hamilton on the front row, and he's of course the main feature for this Grand Prix win. Him against Max Verstappen, I'm sure it'll be battled out once again between the two of them. But we've had Lando Norris starts fifth in the McLaren. He's had a really strong weekend once again. Consistency has been so good for him through the year. The only driver to have scored points in every race still. And he's got another good chance in fifth. And then there's George Russell in the Williams, who starts 12th. But he's been such a star this weekend as well. He sadly picked up a grid penalty for a little tangle with Carlos Sainz in the sprint yesterday. Should have started 9th, picked up 3 places on the grid. So he goes to 12th, but he can still race for the points. And for those three, the home support is just an extra fast.
So I'm on the grid. To the right of me, the number 33 car of Max Verstappen, and he leads the championship by 33 points. Then if I walk a little further down, as Valtteri Bottas just goes past me, white cap on, black overalls, black t-shirt, goes towards Tom Cruise but doesn't actually interact with him at all. I walk 7 steps down, and to the left of me, there is Lewis Hamilton, the man that needs the support of the British fans if he's going to try and really battle back in this championship and win an 8th world title. Tom Cruise standing alarmingly close to me to my left. I'll socially distance my way out of that situation. But when it comes to the battle between these two drivers, Jolyon, they're immense. What can we expect today?
More of the same, I think. It's going to be a race-long duel, I'm sure. For Red Bull, they have Max Verstappen on pole position, but they have Sergio Perez starting from the pit lane. So it is very much only Verstappen for Red Bull who's in with a chance of taking this fight. Verstappen's got no support from his teammate. It's going to take a late safety car or something drastic to get Perez into that mix. So Verstappen's going to be fighting on his own against Hamilton starting second, and we know how good Lewis has been around Silverstone in the past. And Hamilton has Bottas starting in third. So the two Mercedes have got a chance to pincer Max Verstappen in the strategy around the pit stop phase. And I'm sure they'll try and do something different to Max. We saw when they were on the same strategy yesterday, Verstappen got the lead at the start. The pace between Max and Lewis looked to be very similar, but it's very difficult to overtake if you're on the same strategy when they're so evenly matched. So
Jolyon,
Mercedes will mix it up.
I'm going to cut across you because I've managed to find a guest. I have a very long pole mic, so I'm going to stand at the back of my little square that they've put down for me. It's number 13. I hope that isn't a bad sign. But the man in charge of McLaren, Andreas Seidel, joins me, and this is a lovely festival atmosphere. Are you enjoying it?
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's so great to see the fans back. I mean, Silverstone is anyway, again then, special in terms of the fans and the atmosphere. So great to know also that a lot of our colleagues from McLaren are on the grandstands today cheering for the team. Gives the entire team a lot of extra energy and our two drivers to do well today. And so everything is set for a great Sunday afternoon.
Tell you what, if I turn round, we can just give everybody a bit of a wave because there are so many fans here for McLaren. Are you buoyed by the fact that the papaya orange is so prevalent here?
Yeah, no, it's really great to see how many McLaren caps in papaya are around, how many t-shirts. Big step forward, I would say, also to previous years, which is great. A lot of Daniel fans, a lot of Lando fans. And again, so far we are quite happy with how the weekend went. And hopefully we can finish it off now with a good race.
Yeah, your drivers line up in P5 and 6. Can you use anything because they start alongside each other and together this time? What can you get from the British Grand Prix?
First of all, whenever these two guys start next to each other, there's obviously extra nervousness.
You don't want them to crash into each other.
So we had a good breakfast in the morning, just reminding them on the golden rule to never touch. But the objective is clear, we want to move forward. And I think we have a good race car again. Maybe with the heat, it even helps us compared to Charles, for example, who was very strong yesterday evening. Our car is normally very good in terms of tyre usage, tyre degradation. So let's see what we can do.
We wish you the very best of luck. Thank you so much for talking to us, Andreas Seidel. As the marching band arrive, what a glorious sight it is to behold. This is about as British as you can get. Their fuzz hats on their head atop. My word, it's a warm day for that. But the marching military band always looking absolutely immaculate. I'm just going to head back down onto the grid. Fernando Alonso just loitering around at the moment at the front of the grid. Problem is I'm not allowed to speak to him, which is slightly frustrating, but maybe I will find a way of doing that. Jack, what can we expect from this race? Just talk us through what could be a sumptuous event.
Well, we're still waiting to actually find out some of the key ingredients of the race because of the sprint format yesterday, everybody today has a free choice of what tyre to start on. So I can't really give you much analysis of what's going to happen in the fight at the front until we find out what tyre they're starting on. Now, there's a chance, of course, Jolyon, that they're all just going to start on the medium tyre and then there won't be much to discuss for the first half of the Grand Prix, but they can all do whatever they want for, well, not the first time ever, because sometimes if it's wet in qualifying you can do that, but it's pretty unusual.
Yeah, we can postulate as to what might happen in starting tyres. The medium and the hard could give a relatively comfortable one-stop race. We saw the medium and even the soft get through 17 laps yesterday. Today it's 52 laps, so it's a lot further, but with a mandatory pit stop. They've got to use two composite tyres, as is usual in a Grand Prix. But might we see Mercedes go for something a little bit different? Might they put Hamilton onto a soft tyre to try and give him that extra bit of grip and do what Max Verstappen did to him yesterday, pass him off the line and then try and control the race from there? That'll mean that he maybe has to take an earlier pit stop, might mix the strategy later on with a possible second stop. But it's the sort of thing that both Mercedes with Lewis Hamilton will be thinking about, but also Max Verstappen maybe to just give him an extra bit of oomph in defence as he wants to retain that pole position spot off the line.
As you can see and hear, maybe things livening up on the grid as the drivers start to make their way forward for the national anthem, and I think a lot of people down here on the grid just happy to be celebrating, be part of it all. I'm just going to make my way back up through past some of the physios and the drivers who are standing around, and I think, I mean, when it comes to a summer sporting event, Silverstone is a beautiful backdrop, isn't it? It's one of those places where drivers love it, the fans love it. 140,000 people, Jack, have come here today.
Remarkable, isn't it? They are absolutely loving it because it's a beautiful day, and you know, Silverstone in the rain is a very, very different scenario, but today the weather's fantastic, and let's just hope they get a good Grand Prix. I mean, I've been to Silverstone before in the past, and you end up having the race as the most boring thing. 2004, I was on the banks. That was a very dull race. 2011 was a very dull race. No, I'm not. But I'm saying I really think the ingredients are there today for a fascinating battle, and it's a battle that's really, really going to mean something, because if Verstappen wins and he extends his advantage over Hamilton even more, that's going to be big in the championship. But Mercedes have got 2 cars to Red Bull's 1. It's going to be absolutely fascinating. So I just wonder now whether Red Bull feel that they are, I don't know, a little bit cut adrift with Sergio Perez's mistake yesterday. They've got Verstappen starting on pole position. Hamilton and Bottas are in 2nd and 3rd, but how tough is it going to be for Red Bull?
I'm going to try and find out, because Red Bull boss Christian Horner is here. Christian, lovely to see you. The fans giving you a great reception.
Yeah, it's great to be racing in the UK. Some of the best fans in the world. So I don't know if they're all listening on radio, on your radio channel, but you are. I hope you're having a great afternoon so far.
Now, what are you guys going to do to try and help out Max Verstappen today? He's the lone wolf at the front.
Yeah, I think the key is to try and repeat the start that we had yesterday. The Mercedes is incredibly quick in a straight line. We're quicker in the corners, so we're doing very similar lap times, but in very different ways, and that's going to be crucial, you know, to see how with the strategy that pans out. It's a little bit windier today as well. How is that going to affect the cars? So it's going to be interesting.
How are you finding this season? How much are you enjoying it? Because you're actually in a championship battle and you're leading both of the championships.
I don't think you get a chance to enjoy it. You just go from race to race, and you know, we're trying to do the best we can. Take each race as it comes. Max has been driving fantastically, you know, all season so far, and you know, we've worked hard to get this pole position through the sprint race yesterday, and it's important to try and make it count today.
Have you seen a difference in Max now he's fighting for the title?
Yeah, I think he's, you know, showing great maturity, and you can see the experience that he now has. So it's, you know, he's using that to good effect, and he needs all of that to go up against a great driver like Lewis.
Is there a feeling that he's coming into Lewis's heartland, Silverstone, his home, that will actually give him extra motivation to do it in front of 140,000?
Yeah, you can see the massive support he has. I mean, it's fantastic to see the support for all the British drivers. So that's good to see, but you know, our priority is to try and win the race today, and you know, Max is our driver, and that's, you know, we're doing the best we can to give him the best chance he's got.
And Perez from the pit lane.
Yeah, you know, Sergio's going to have a busy afternoon. We've taken the opportunity to change the car for today, so hopefully he can quickly make some quick progress.
Well, let you go, Christian Horner. Thank you so much for joining us on BBC Radio 5 Live and BBC Radio Northampton. Interesting, he says he has seen a change in attitude from Max Verstappen. What do you make of that, Jack?
Well, I think we've all seen it, because he's in the championship fight now, and he hasn't been before, and he's very sensible, and he's very sort of articulate now. It is a different Verstappen, but yet he seems pretty much the same on the track, I think.
Well, he's forced into this different position, isn't it? We've not seen what he could be like in a championship battle, because he's not had the car, but this year he has. He's taken on that level of maturity, which you basically need if you're going to be consistent over the course of 23 races, or however many we get in the end this season. You need to have a level head. You can't afford to be emotional, to make sloppy errors against Lewis Hamilton, 7-time world champ, because he'll just simply punish them all the time. He's such a strong competitor, as Sebastian Vettel found out in recent years. Max seems to be taking on that burden of responsibility for the team and for himself, and so far he's delivered really strong performances.
Well, he is going to be starting on pole position ahead of Lewis Hamilton in 2nd, Valtteri Bottas 3rd, Charles Leclerc in 4th. 5th on the grid is going to be Lando Norris, Ricciardo, Alonso, Vettel, Ocon and Sainz, the top 10. And then Gasly, Russell, Raikkonen, Stroll and Giovinazzi, the top 15. Tsunoda, Latifi, Schumacher and Mazepin, the 19 drivers, with Sergio Perez starting from the pit lane. And the fans at Silverstone on their feet now and applauding, showing their thanks to all the frontline heroes that have been helping out over the last 18 months or so. And now it will be the British national anthem. And, well, no, we're doing the applause now, my apologies. So there's the round of applause for all the frontline heroes that have enabled this Grand Prix to take place. And it's so refreshing to see 140,000 fans in the grandstands at Silverstone for the British Grand Prix.
The applause ring out around Silverstone, the band of the Scots Guards. Absolutely phenomenal. We've had some great national anthems so far this year. Valtteri Bottas just sprints past me on his way down to, well, he's going very wide at the moment. I don't know where he's going, but on the grass. Lando Norris walking past, trying to keep cool. And Lewis Hamilton with a black umbrella over him, trying to keep the sun away. Jolien, it's so hot down here. This is going to be hard work for the drivers. People think, oh, they're just sitting in a car going round and round 52 laps. But actually, it is hard work.
Yeah, and they do a lot of training for days like this. 29 degrees air temperature, track temperature over 52 degrees. It's pretty scorching. And the drivers, of course, have got to wear their fireproof overalls as well, their helmet over the top. It's going to be incredibly sweaty for them. They'll lose a good around 3 kilos of sweat, basically, of fluid. So they've got to drink in the car. They'll keep themselves a little bit hydrated, but it's going to be hard work. But this is what they train for. It's prime time, really. This in front of a full crowd, a Silverstone circuit that's brilliant to race on. It's also quite physical. There's a lot of fast corners, but the drivers love to attack them, and there's overtaking opportunities as well.
15 minutes to go before the race gets underway. 52 laps of the Grand Prix. Verstappen on pole. Hamilton and Bottas will be fighting him in these early stages of the race. Perez not going to be involved in this fight. We've seen a lot of sort of safety cars over the years at Silverstone as well, haven't we? So that could come into play later on in the Grand Prix. And what can George Russell do, starting in 12th place after sort of slipping down, really, outside of where he qualified for the sprint yesterday and down into 12th position on the start grid. Jenny.
So I'm just standing in front of Max Verstappen, and last-minute preparations going on. His race engineer, GP, has some pen and paper that he's making notes on. He's just given some tyre pressure information to the man in charge of tyres for them. And Max Verstappen having a chat underneath the umbrella at the moment. Just final preparations going on, and a final bits of tape being lifted from the number 33 car of Max Verstappen. So here's to my right, then to my left, we have Lewis Hamilton, a fantastic helmet this weekend. And Lewis Hamilton coming just towards the car now, a stray little bit of hair is pushed back and away. The pressure is on him, I think. It's really on him, Jolien, isn't it? He needs to start delivering. He needs to claw back some of this point deficit that he has of 33 points.
Up one from yesterday, where Max Verstappen got the better start and won the sprint for 3 points. But, of course, Lewis getting 2 for second place just nudged out that championship lead again, and also meant that Lewis now starts behind Max on the front row. Verstappen on pole, Hamilton second. That's the inside line, and it's the inside line that Verstappen used to pass Hamilton yesterday. So Lewis has got to be focused on doing exactly the same thing. The pressure's mounting. Red Bull have got a very fast car here, and it's pressure that Hamilton's not had for a number of seasons, but he's driving as well as ever. The lap he did on Friday was so good. He was just absolutely in his element, and he's been the fastest man in qualifying. He set the fastest lap yesterday, but he didn't have the track position. Somehow Hamilton in that Mercedes got to use that pace and find a way to attack Verstappen, because he couldn't manage it on equal terms yesterday. He's
got the coolest helmet that I've seen for a long time for him. It says "Still We Rise" on the back. I think it's done by Mad Dog Jones, I want to say, kind of a graffiti kind of artist look on it. And we've been talking a lot about helmet designs. What do you guys think? Because we saw Damon Hill's very simple helmet design earlier on, and you were raving about it.
I love a simple helmet design. Damon Hill's is iconic, the dark blue with the thin white stripes on the top. He was doing some laps earlier on in his 1996 championship-winning Williams, and it just brought back some childhood fever for me. I'm all about the simple designs. For me, you want to stand out, have your sort of like your brand, isn't it, when you're in the car, so that people can identify you as you're coming through. But more recently, they're getting more and more complex, and they're changing often as well. Of course, for Lewis, special helmet for his home race, as it is for Lando Norris, who's got a tribute to the NHS workers as well on his helmet in the McLaren this weekend. What do you think, Jack?
Yeah, well, Hamilton used to be quite iconic when he first entered F1. He had the yellow helmet.
I loved the original Hamilton helmet was my best.
Your favourite?
Yep.
Yeah, and it was based on Senna. Then he's been through a few iterations, hasn't he, over the years? But I agree. I do like a helmet that you just know who it is, but you rarely get that. There's no one really in the field that has that anymore, which is quite remarkable.
Charles Leclerc just getting into his Ferrari, the number 16 emblazoned on the back. Then I walk a little bit forward. He starts in position 4. Then to the right of me, the papaya orange of Lando Norris, and the other McLaren to the left, Daniel Ricciardo, looking so relaxed today. He's got the honey badger on his lid. He has not had the greatest start this season, but he's going up and down with his zip like a man possessed at the moment. I think he did about 20 up and downs with his zip. Is that superstition, Jodie? And what's going on with that?
Well, maybe he got it caught. I don't know, I didn't see it.
That's valid. Yeah, he's just lowering himself down, a knee support as well. How violent is this track on a driver?
It's generally, there's two things. It's either fast corners and high G-force loads, which put a lot of strain on the neck, but the core of the driver as well. And that's what we've got a lot of here. There's a lot of fast corners that the drivers will really be put through their paces through. Copse, Maggots, Beckett's particularly halfway around the lap, the old first corner until they reposition the start line. And then it's bumps. Bumps are the thing that really bruise you, and normally the street circuits, somewhere like Singapore particularly, is extremely bumpy, and after an hour and a half to 2 hours of driving, you pick up bruises you were not expecting in the oddest of places. It's quite smooth at Silverstone, so it's just going to be the heat and the G-force, really.
Yeah, I can tell you're standing on the grid just next to Fernando Alonso as he lowers himself into that bright blue Alpine car, the 39-year-old back in Formula One, and with a great sprint race yesterday that led him up to a wonderful position on the grid of P7. So he was one of the people that did benefit from the sprint race. We should quickly talk about Sergio Perez. He's not on the grid, starts on the pit lane as I just go past the number 5 car of Sebastian Vettel. The sprint race was a disaster for him, Jack, and now he'll have to start from the pit lane. He's got a mountain to climb today.
Yeah, he'll get some points, I think, Sergio Perez. Maybe put on a set of hards and go forever, or put on a set of softs and go forever. He can go forever on anything, can Sergio Perez. But he'll get some points today, but it's not what Red Bull need in the championship fight or in the victory or in the fight for victory. Fernando Alonso actually spun on his way to the grid, stuck a couple of wheels in the gravel on the exit of Luffield, looped it around, picked up a bit of gravel. I think the mechanics have sort of cleared it all out now once he got to the grid, but not ideal preparation for him, starting 7th, but we saw him, as you say, with that one of the best opening laps of all time. Am I being a bit dramatic there?
It was fabulous. 11th up to 5th place with just clean moves, corner after corner after corner. Never really settling into a position, always wanting more. And that was, I think, the goal of the sprint, was to see a performance like that somewhere, and you kind of expected Alonso to do something. But coming around in 5th place was exceptional. Starts 7th today because the two McLarens both passed him. McLaren with a quicker car really than Alpine here, and Norris and Ricciardo will have eyes forward to Charles Leclerc, who's had a good weekend. He starts 4th behind Bottas, Hamilton and Verstappen on pole. So Alonso's probably got a battle still for points, but he's so good in wheel-to-wheel battles. He's had that spin earlier on, but that was on a set of tyres that he won't be using for the race anyway, so it shouldn't be any major drama for him.
Right, I'm just about to get kicked off the grid. About 7 minutes until the race gets underway. The flag's fluttering to my right. The grandstand's absolutely packed to the rafters, and they will be cheering on everybody, but especially our 3 Brits. I'm stood in front of George Russell's car. He's just got his hands together, looking concentrated down at the start straight, 240 metres into the first turn and the braking point. He looks at me, just nods. I'll leave him to it, but there must be some butterflies. Julian, do you get nervous as a driver, especially in front of your home fans like George Russell is right now?
I wouldn't call it nerves, but I think you're just so focused on the start of the race. It's the most crucial part of the whole race weekend. The cars are all tightly packed, and it's the chance to make yourself a hero, make yourself a good few places, and change the outlook for the rest of the Grand Prix. So ultimate focus, and for George, he's got a chance still. He's had a tough turn yesterday with a penalty from the stewards that I thought was pretty unlucky, really. A 3-place grid drop. Should have been starting in the top 10 as he was for the sprint after qualifying 8th. Starts 12th, but again, just got to focus. The starts haven't always been his strong point, but if he can nail this one, he is going to be in that mix for points once again in the Williams.
It would be romantic, wouldn't it, if he were able to get points for Williams? It feels like they're deserved, and it hasn't happened so far. But could you imagine if he does that, if Norris were to get a podium, maybe if Lewis Hamilton was to win the race, that would be the fairy tale.
Yeah, I think a Norris and Hamilton on the podium would be really cool and is a bit doable. Russell, I think it's almost to the point now where if Russell scores points, it's sort of like, yeah, finally.
Yeah. He's been so close the last couple of races in Austria, finishing 11th, just getting overtaken by Fernando Alonso in the final laps last time out. Was running 7th, the Styrian Grand Prix, also in Austria the week before, and his car let him down. So it kind of feels like it is about time now for George, and he's qualified once again in the top 10. The sprint's dropped him down to 12th, as I said, but he's got a chance, and he's always consistently around that top 10 now. So today could be the day for him. Norris podium, it's not out of the question. It probably will rely on someone ahead, or at least 2 cars ahead coming into trouble. He was a bit downbeat yesterday about his prospects of beating Charles Leclerc. He thought the Ferrari was a bit too quick, but at least they start side by side today.
And Andreas Seidel mentioned a moment ago, didn't he, when he was speaking to you, Jenny, that the extra heat might not help the Ferraris with their tyre management, which is something that they've struggled with over the course of the season. So I think Norris he's got a chance at 4th, and then one person drops out. That's a podium.
Oh, I'm just so excited. Just looking at the helicopter of the huge site that is Silverstone, and it is absolutely packed out. Flags everywhere. The fans so enthused to be back, so enthused to be part of Formula One again and watch this race. And they want a spectacle, don't they? They will be cheering, Jolyon, everybody on. But I think this place will erupt for the Brits.
It's been rocking since Thursday. We went driving on Thursday and everyone was in and the place was bouncing. So it has been a festival atmosphere for the whole weekend. The Brits, of course, are taking the lion's share of the support, but they want to see a great race. We've had really good action so far. Friday's qualifying was thrilling, seeing Lewis Hamilton set the pace when we didn't really expect it. Verstappen's been on such a good run, but Hamilton dug deep. Yesterday's sprint, something new, and certainly quite interesting. And now the pièce de résistance, the Grand Prix. Everyone on medium tyres, by the way. Everyone on medium. Oh.
Well, one stop is what we're expecting. Everyone on medium tyres. Maybe someone will throw a curveball in and go on softs towards the end of the race. Let's see what happens. I'm just leaving the paddock. Here's the Plinky Plonk machine. There we go. That means I'm now out of the paddock and I'm walking around into what is a very steep, a lot of steps that will take me up to what is a wonderful viewing perch of the last turns here. And I mean, it just looks like, as Jack said earlier on the radio, like Glastonbury. Fans packed in. They've got their little camping chairs that they're sitting on. They've got umbrellas, mass colours all over, sprinkled in the crowd, and the flags flying high as well. Listen to Fosi here supporting Ferrari, but I think most people are here supporting the Brits and just want to see a fabulous race. So let's see what Silverstone delivers. We have 52 laps. We have an amazing crowd, 140,000 people packed in here in Northamptonshire, and they want to see a great race. Jolyon Palmer, Jack Nicholls, let's hope it delivers.
Well, there are some ingredients there, no doubt about that. We've got a championship battle on. Max Verstappen leads the 2021 Formula One World Championship season by 33 points over Lewis Hamilton. No matter what happens this afternoon, Hamilton cannot regain the lead of the championship, but he can close in on Verstappen if he has a good race. And obviously, the more Verstappen struggles, the more Hamilton will close the margin. As Jolyon says, everybody on the medium compounded tyre, which, well, we'll see how it plays out, because I guess it's giving you the most amount of flexibility, isn't it? You can kind of go longer if you want, come in earlier if you want, perhaps, and still have reasonable pace. We will wait and see. Hamilton has never finished lower than second at Silverstone in the hybrid era, and Max Verstappen has led 70% of all the laps so far this season. It really is a titanic battle between two of the top racing drivers in the world, arguably the top two racing drivers in the world. Lewis Hamilton, one of the greatest of all time. Max Verstappen certainly on his way to being there. And it is Verstappen, though, the championship leader, that will start on pole position after a great getaway gave him the lead yesterday. It's 3 o'clock here at Silverstone, and as the cars pull away on their formation lap, this is the British Grand Prix. So the cars make their way around. This is the grid. Max Verstappen on pole position. Lewis Hamilton alongside him on the front row. Valtteri Bottas and Charles Leclerc are third and fourth for Mercedes and Ferrari. The two McLarens, Lando Norris and Daniel Ricciardo, are fifth and sixth. Fernando Alonso seventh in the Alpine. Sebastian Vettel's Aston Martin is eighth, with Ocon and Sainz completing the top 10. Gasly, Russell, Raikkonen, Stroll and Giovinazzi are the top 15. Tsunoda, Latifi, Schumacher, Mazepin, the 19 drivers that will start on the grid. Perez starts from the pits. So Verstappen making his way now around the far part of the circuit where the old start-finish straight used to be, towards the very fast right-hander at Copse Corner. And then he'll come down through the Maggots and Beckett's sequence. And we are really in for, I don't know, it just feels like, even though everybody's on the medium tyres, it feels like an afternoon that is bubbling, that there's so much anticipation in the air. Maybe it's just being at a sporting event with 140,000 fans just makes it feel like something's going to happen.
It's had the feeling of it all weekend, though. Yeah. That's the thing. It's all been brewing up for this moment. And it's Lewis Hamilton who's on the back foot after the starts yesterday. I'm a little bit surprised to see everyone on the medium tyres. Sergio Perez from the pit lane is looking like he'll start on the hards, which is what we thought might happen, and he'll just go and go and go in that one. But everyone else on the mediums.
Thank you very much, Mark. Myself, Jack Nicholls, Jolyon Palmer and Jenny Gow with you on that DAB station and on BBC Radio Northampton as well, as the cars are now making their way around the final few corners to start this Grand Prix in front of 140,000 fans. Jenny Gow.
Yes, I'm here as the cars make their way round the final turn in front of grandstands packed full of people, Union flags rippling around. It's Max Verstappen who leads them all onto the grid, but Lewis Hamilton and Valtteri Bottas, the two Mercedes, right behind him, playing cat and mouse at the moment on track. Want to go a bit faster, I think, but they're not allowed to. Max Verstappen setting the pace here.
Verstappen is about to start on pole position, and he leads the Formula One World Championship by 33 points over Lewis Hamilton. No matter what happens in the next hour and a half or so, Hamilton cannot retake the lead of the championship, but he will do his best to try and beat Verstappen and haul back in the championship advantage that Verstappen has built. Harrison Ford watching in the Williams garage, Tom Cruise watching in the Mercedes garage, and all of the eyes at Silverstone are focused on that front row, because yesterday, Jolyon Palmer, it was the driver in second place who got the best start.
Unusually, the outside, the cleaner side of the grid should have a bit more rubber down, but it was Verstappen who launched into the lead. Can Hamilton fight back and do the same this time?
The British Grand Prix about to get underway. 140,000 fans at Silverstone watch as the lights go out and the race begins. And who is going to get the best start? It's pretty decent from Max Verstappen. Hamilton is coming with him, and Hamilton's getting alongside. They're coming into the fast right-hander at turn one. Hamilton hits the front. No, Verstappen holds on around the outside. Verstappen still has the lead as they come up into the hairpin right-hander at Village. Hamilton got the better start. Hamilton got alongside, but Verstappen held the place. But now he's going to try and go for it again is Hamilton as they come out onto the next straight, the Wellington straight, down towards Brooklands, and Verstappen immediately covers the inside line. Hamilton goes to the outside. They're wheel to wheel. Hamilton is squeezing him. They're still side by side. Verstappen holds the place unbelievably. All the way around the outside, Lewis Hamilton tried to go, and the Ferrari of Charles Leclerc is getting involved in the fight too. But the grandstands were on their feet. That's superb wheel-to-wheel racing between Hamilton and Verstappen. And Hamilton's going for it again to the inside at Copse Corner, and they make contact. Verstappen's off. Verstappen's in the wall. Hamilton is in the lead of the Grand Prix, and Max Verstappen is out of the British Grand Prix. Hamilton might have damage too. Charles Leclerc in the Ferrari leads the way, and the two title contenders have finally come together.
Hamilton's continuing in second. The safety car is called, so Hamilton can keep that position. But wow, oh my word, that was a crash waiting to happen for 9 corners, and eventually at Copse it did, with Hamilton on the inside. Verstappen just would not yield. At turn 1 he held it on the outside, ran a little bit over the grass. They almost touched down at Brooklands into turn 6. They might have even touched. It was millimetres between the two cars in a straight line. Super aggression from the two. And then finally Hamilton on the inside, Verstappen on the outside, and they have come to blows. Verstappen's in the wall with a big crash.
I've got damage. We're ready for you in the box.
Hamilton's saying he's got damage. They're saying they're waiting for him in the pit lane, but he hasn't come into the pit lane. They've both stayed out. So Charles Leclerc it is who is leading the Grand Prix. Verstappen is climbing out of his car now, and the crowds are applauding him because, to be honest, that was a huge crash for Max Verstappen.
Yeah, he's hit the barrier really hard. He gets out of the car, but he's not moving all that well at all, and just having to be supported by the doctor out of the medical car at the moment, but he is standing on his own 2 feet. He'll be winded, no doubt, from that one. He took so many chances on that first lap. He was just risking it for everything. And you know what? For the first time this year, Hamilton didn't back out. Hamilton gave him a chance at Imola. He gave him a chance at Barcelona, but now we're seeing Lewis with a 33-point deficit. He's not going to let Verstappen off the hook again. They came to blows. My initial instinct is that was a racing incident. I think Hamilton was on the inside, Verstappen on the outside. They touched. It was brave for Verstappen to try and hold it.
Well, the safety car deployed. Charles Leclerc leads the way, Hamilton second, Bottas third, but Hamilton and Verstappen have come together and collided for the first time this season, and this championship fight takes a very, very fascinating turn. Full commentary on the BBC Sport website and app, but on 5 Live we'll go back to the golf. Mark.
Well, the crowd just looking on as Max Verstappen's car is actually we're doing a replay, so I'll come back to you guys so you can talk us through it.
Yeah, well, the red flag is out, so the race is being stopped. Hamilton tried to go around the outside of Verstappen yesterday. I think that's pretty much a racing incident for me.
It's a complete racing incident. Hamilton was clean up the inside. Max tried to hang on around the outside. He's actually got his car further ahead as he's managed to carry the speed, but he's turned and Hamilton can't disappear from the inside. And they've had contact, left front of Hamilton, right rear of Verstappen. This is the sound on board with Lewis. It's just a square racing incident, no two ways about it. Two drivers fighting hard, neither giving an inch, and it's Verstappen, the man on the outside, at a very high-speed corner at Copse that's come off worse. He's been pitched into a spin. The right rear's already buckled from the contact with Hamilton, and he's hit the wall side-on really hard. But as we know, he's out of the car and okay. What damage has Lewis Hamilton got? Because remember, Charles Leclerc now leads the race.
Yeah, so Charles Leclerc leads the way, Hamilton second, Bottas third. Red flag is out, so that'll be another grid start potentially and a chance to repair Hamilton's car.
Exactly, it's a really important red flag for Mercedes and Hamilton. Thankfully, Lewis didn't pit at the end of lap 1 because he said he had damage, radioed the team.
Is Max okay?
He's out of the car.
Hamilton, Jenny, just checking that Max Verstappen's okay.
The cars are thundering past me. Apologies, it's incredibly loud as you have 19 drivers in their Formula One cars all peeling off to go into the pit lane. I'm guessing George Russell had a terrible start because somehow he's down towards the back end and only just ahead of Mick Schumacher in a Haas. So I don't know what happened for him. Sergio Perez remains right at the back of the field, but this is a stroke of luck for Lewis Hamilton, a red flag, meaning that team can come in and they can actually do work to that car. So Hamilton will probably get out of the car, I'm expecting. They'll look at how much damage is done. And this is a great moment for Lewis Hamilton to just regroup. And the Mercedes team, as I said, can mend that car. Max Verstappen's going to be furious, isn't he?
So the order is Leclerc, Hamilton, Bottas. Norris is 4th, Ricciardo is 5th. 6th is Sebastian Vettel, 7th Fernando Alonso, Sainz is 8th. Kimi Raikkonen has got up into 9th position on that opening lap. He started in 13th. Esteban Ocon is 10th. Stroll, Gasly, Giovinazzi, Russell the top 14. As you say, Russell dropping down the order. Tsunoda is 15th. Schumacher, Latifi, Mazepin and Perez, the 19 drivers, with Max Verstappen out of the Grand Prix. And that, I love moments like that because that was an iconic moment in motorsport history just there.
Yeah, it's
for
been
30 years to come, they will be replaying that crash.
It's been an inevitability that these two will crash this year. And Verstappen's been the one taking the risks. And Hamilton, the elder statesman, the one with the 7 titles and maybe a little bit more maturity in the battle, has backed out in certain times. But he can't afford to keep backing out when Verstappen's taking the chances, or he's just going to lose more points here and there, particularly when Red Bull now have a car that's as fast or maybe even faster than the Mercedes. So finally Lewis has gone toe-to-toe with him, taken the risk. and it's Verstappen that's lost out here on the outside.
And he was pushing him all the way, squeezing him into Brooklands and then selling him the dummy. The dummy going into Copse was absolutely superb from Hamilton.
Yeah, it was the racecraft of the two of them was so good up until turn 9 at Copse Corner. And the dummy from Hamilton just looked to have a nose on the outside, then dashed straight to the inside, and there was a gap that Verstappen had left. And Hamilton put his Mercedes there. Verstappen still turned in. Lewis did just understeer slightly wide of the apex, but that's inevitable on a really fast corner. And wow, they almost touched exit at turn 1, where Verstappen kept it pinned around the outside as well. They were so close to touching down the straight as well, in a straight line down to Brooklands. That's the pressure and the intensity that these two are racing with. They've put the visor down today, and they knew they were going to race like this. The crowd may be giving them an extra impetus to be... Oh, did they touch? I mean, millimetres.
It was absolutely phenomenal, that opening lap. That was an F1 sprint race.
Yeah, yeah. All too sprinty for Verstappen, who doesn't make it past the to the second half of the lap. It's into turn 9. We're getting another replay now. Hamilton on the outside. Verstappen had covered it, but there was a space. Lewis went for it, and then he did understeer towards Verstappen.
How was the head going in there, man?
Yeah, copy, Lewis.
Fully alongside, it's my line. Yeah, you turned in on me, man.
Yeah, copy that, Lewis. Yeah, just reviewed the video.
You're giving the guy space.
Yeah, I genuinely think that is fair enough. That response from Hamilton there. The sound you can hear now is Charles Leclerc. We're just getting a look at well, he had the best seat in the house for all of it.
Yeah, what a view, having passed Valtteri Bottas off the line. Just better drive in the Ferrari off. Bottas getting a bit of wheel spin and couldn't keep his third position off the line. Leclerc then just watched these two championship rivals duking it out, really wheel to wheel down the Wellington straight. Leclerc must have been waiting for this to happen with his view. I mean, I just can't tell if they did touch or if it was millimetre perfect down to Brooklands. Certainly no damage to either car and no spark, so maybe they measured it perfectly there. But it was only 2 corners later where Verstappen was planted into the wall. And Leclerc, looking at it, would have just been waiting for that to happen. And he knows who he's racing against here as well. He knows it's Hamilton and Verstappen. And when that happens as well, you know it's a momentous occasion, like you do, Jack. Leclerc swooped through on the exit of Copse to now lead the race as Hamilton had that contact and lost a bit of momentum. But as we said, Lewis can now, Mercedes can check over that car, and if there is any damage, they can fix it under these red flag conditions, if they can fix it in time, whatever it is.
Now, the reason for the red flag is going to be to repair the barriers on the outside of Copse Corner where Verstappen went in and hit the wall. And great from the British fans, actually, to applaud Verstappen. Verstappen waved back at them, and I think they are really appreciating what they're seeing in this fight between Verstappen and Hamilton. And Hamilton actually is back. He was back in the garage and watched the replay and did a little shake of the head.
Yeah, he knows that Verstappen has just risked everything there to hang on. I think Max desperate to keep the lead. Remember, he was racing 2 Mercedes at the front as well. Perez is at the back, having just been released from the pit lane, and Verstappen, I'm sure he felt he needed to keep the lead, because with 2 Mercedes in the race against only him in the Red Bull, track position at the start is key, and then it's just, can you defend the whole way through? If you lose the lead at the start, Mercedes have all the strategy options available with Valtteri Bottas as well to try and undercut, force Max into an earlier stop than he would like, and the race becomes so much harder. So that's why he forced the issue so much with Hamilton there, really risking it at every corner and every straight for half a lap. But he's lost out, and I don't believe that Lewis Hamilton will be penalised. I think it was a fair move that was on for Hamilton. Also, a brave one on the inside of Copse, no doubt. It's a very fast corner, but as he said on the radio, he was alongside. He was he didn't have to back out of that one from the inside. So I think Hamilton's got away with it, but what is the damage on his car?
Well, red flag still out. The incident involving Hamilton and Verstappen is under investigation for causing a collision, so we'll wait and see what the stewards decide. Charles Leclerc is leading the Grand Prix.
You do struggle to predict the stewards at the moment.
If you look at the penalty that Russell got yesterday, obviously very different circumstances, but similar you know, front to rear wheel contact, really.
It was, but that should never have been a penalty for Russell.
Yeah.
That's the thing. Normally there's leeway for first lap incidents as well, but Russell got this this bizarre 3-place grid penalty. So you never really know what the stewards are gonna dish out. What I would say is, worst case for Hamilton, if they do really frown upon this, it's got to be a 5-second penalty. And with no Verstappen in the race and only Ferrari's Charles Leclerc ahead, if his car's not damaged, he could swallow a 5-second penalty as an absolute worst case. So this one, the hard wheel-to-wheel battling has just favoured Lewis Hamilton massively, and this is a serious turning point in the championship. So, an interesting question here. A lot of you, well, some of you on hashtag BBC F1 accusing us of a bit of bias, which is fair enough. I don't think that's true, to be honest. But oh, hang on, let's listen to this.
Michael, have you got a minute?
Hello.
Yeah, Michael, look, that corner, he was never anywhere near alongside. Every driver that's driven at this circuit knows you do not stick a wheel up the inside at Copse. You know, that's an enormous accident, and it was 100% Max's corner. So, you know, as far as I'm concerned, full blame lays on Hamilton, who should never have been in that position. So, you know, you could have had a massive, you know, accident. Thank God he's walked away unscathed. So I hope you're going to deal with it appropriately.
Understood, Christian. That's why it's just gone up now that things have calmed down for a second, as under investigation by the stewards.
So, well, okay, interesting. So, your thoughts on Horner's? Well, a lot of this comes back to, and we've got time, so we'll get into this a little bit. In what I believe is a bit of a, no one really knows what the rules of racing are, right? And Christian Horner there is giving a view that is a sort of fairly common one in motorsport, that if you're on the outside, if you're on the racing line, then it is your corner and you're allowed to turn in, and if the guy has hit you off, the guy has hit you off. But I think other people don't believe that to be the case. I think other people would say, well, no, if you've got a bit of a wheel alongside or you're halfway alongside, you deserve to be given space. And I think those are two competing and different thoughts about what wheel-to-wheel racing is in the modern era.
Hamilton was clearly alongside Verstappen as they came into the corner. As Verstappen's launched it into the corner, Lewis has backed out of it slightly more because he's coming from a tighter line, and that's meant that it's left front to right rear contact. But that's because Lewis has sort of backed out of it slightly, as Verstappen is committed with incredible intensity for someone on the outside of Copse corner. And as Christian Horner says, it's a fast corner. But Max took the chance of turning in regardless of having a Mercedes right on the inside. I just think it's very difficult to apportion blame to either driver there. It's a classic racing incident. Two cars trying to go through there. Lewis with a little bit of understeer in a very fast corner. Verstappen committing so hard on the outside, not willing to yield an inch. And with two drivers fighting that hard, contact's inevitable. I've driven here, and people do sometimes make overtakes at Copse corner. It's not you don't have to go one by one through that corner.
I've had a chance to look at that footage. Lewis was significantly alongside on the inside of turn 9.
That's Mercedes' response. Sainz and Grosjean collided there a few years ago.
Exactly. I believe nothing came of that.
I don't honestly remember. But, well, they were both out of the race, so there was probably, maybe one of them got a grid drop for the next race. I can't remember. But there is such a thing as a racing incident. I think that's the other thing, that they both had space. No one forced anyone to the outside. Verstappen had room, Hamilton had room, and they came together. That's just going to happen if you want racing to be the case.
The key is neither of them yielded. They were side by side into the corner, and they both took a massive risk in a very fast corner, and they touched. And in this instance, the one on the outside has ended in the wall, as is more often the case as well. The one on the outside that goes. When Sainz hit Grosjean, Grosjean ended up in the wall, didn't he? But I don't think Sainz got I don't remember Sainz getting a penalty for it. But it is just an incident that happens. Fernando Alonso yesterday sent one around the outside of, was it Lando Norris at that corner?
Go ahead, Jonathan.
I've watched this replay several times now, Michael, and I'm
feeling really cross about it.
I understand, Jonathan, which is why the stewards are obviously investigating it at the moment.
But that corner there, Michael, that's not a place to take a wheel up the inside of a car.
No, I completely understand your perspective, Jonathan, which is why the stewards are investigating it, and that's why they are there.
Right, thank you.
Thank you.
So that's everyone having a go. That's Jonathan Wheatley, the team manager at Rebel, having a go at Michael Massey. Everyone's having a go at Michael Massey, and Michael Massey saying, well, it's not actually up to me anyway. It's the steward's decision. Nick Hughes says, hashtag BBC F1, would Hamilton have tried that move anywhere else? Has the occasion got to him a bit?
I think the occasion's got to both of them. The way that they were fighting, they were both so hard on each other, and they're both desperate for the lead on the first lap. And Lewis was on the inside. He dummied it. Verstappen tried to block off the inside on the old start-finish straight on the inside into Copse. Hamilton dummied it, then got the inside, and from that position, if Max chooses to turn in from the outside, then he's always taking a risk when there's a Mercedes on the inside that's got a significant amount of his car, if not the whole car, on the inside before they start to lift for the corner.
Now, we're still under red flag conditions. We'll be getting the race underway, obviously, as quickly as possible. I'm presuming there was some sort of damage to the Red Bull of Verstappen that needed to be safety checked because they didn't clear the car away for a long period of time. This is coverage of the British Grand Prix here on the BBC Sport website and app and BBC Sounds and BBC Radio Northampton. And Jolie and Palmer, myself, Jack Nicholls, are with you in the commentary box, and down by the track is Jenny Gow.
Yeah, I've just come down towards the pit lane actually to have a little look. It's fascinating, isn't it, the insight that we get with Team Radio to be able to listen to both of them. And this is where it gets political, isn't it? They're really pushing their own agendas and saying, hang on a minute, we're in the right, this is what we should be doing, this is what should happen. And Michael Massey's in the middle of it and he has to be the referee, and it's actually up to the stewards. It's not up to Michael Massey. Massey can make recommendations, but the panel of the 4 stewards are the ones that determine exactly what they think. They interpret the rules that they have, which is a chunky old rule book, I have to say, and then they come up with any penalty that they think is appropriate and has to be adhered to. So, yeah, you can understand that both Ron Meadows and Jonathan Wheatley are on the radios a lot saying, come on, we're in the right here.
I think the issue is Hamilton didn't stick a wheel in at that corner. He was very far up the inside of Max before he then lifted off slightly for the corner, but he was there, and Max would have known that he was there and still chose to turn in. And then the momentum, the inertia of the Mercedes just went slightly wider at the apex and tipped the Red Bull into the wall. But we're not talking about sticking a wheel in some mad lunge. He was there on the inside. Max knew it because he tried to defend it and then moved back to the outside and still turned in. These things happen. It's a racing incident of 2 drivers absolutely going for it, neither wanting to yield, and one of them has come off very badly.
It was bound to happen, wasn't it? As you guys have both pointed out, we have 2 men fighting for a championship, and also, Jolien, they're fighting for status, aren't they?
Status? Yeah, but
within
the championship.
This championship battle, within this particular one, they're fighting to be the one that's leading, the one that can dictate the pace.
Yeah, they're fighting for the hardest championship that Lewis Hamilton has had to fight, probably since 2007 or 2008. This is maybe even harder than those ones for Lewis. Red Bull, with Max Verstappen, who is a serious talent, are taking the fight to Mercedes. And we've seen the last couple of weeks, Hamilton's had no answer in Austria. In France, they were snookered, and Verstappen and Red Bull did a great job. But here, he's bounced back. He took the fastest qualifier on Friday. Then Max rebounded. They've had a real ding-dong through the first 2 days of this weekend. And I do think probably the crowd and the absolute effect, the roar of the British crowd, it does make a bit of a difference to you as well. I'm sure Hamilton's felt an extra buzz. I'm also confident that Max has wanted to, it's given him even more incentive to try and get ahead of Lewis. And that's why we've seen it all come to a head on this Silverstone Sunday. And I just can't see that it's worthy of a penalty for Lewis on this occasion.
Well, we are, for what it's worth, on lap 3 of 52 in the red flag situation. Charles Leclerc is ahead in the Ferrari. Now, I would imagine It will be a standing restart after this. It has been for the last few times there's been a red flag in the Grand Prix. It is at the race director's discretion, but I don't see why they wouldn't. Lewis Hamilton second, Bottas third, Norris fourth, Ricciardo fifth, which plays quite nicely into that Norris podium chat.
Michael, this is Toto.
Go ahead, Toto.
Michael, I just sent you an email with the diagrams where the car should be. Did you receive that?
Toto, I don't access my emails during a race deliberately because I concentrate on the race.
Yeah, then you should maybe look at this because there is something with the rules. I'm coming up.
No problem. I suggest if you want to, Toto, feel free to go upstairs and see the stewards directly.
So Toto Wolff, the boss of Mercedes, has sent, this is good stuff, has sent Michael Massey an email. Michael, have you got your emails? Mate, I'm not looking at my emails, I'm working. Go and see the stewards. Approximately 15 minutes until the race gets back underway. They'll give us a 10-minute warning, but 15 minutes or so until the race gets back underway. Jenny?
Do you remember when Lewis Hamilton went to see the stewards in the red flag period? Maybe he needs to be the one to take the bull by the horn and just pop up and see Michael Massey. You know, it's not unprecedented. We've seen it happen before. So go and make your own appeal, Lewis.
Well, I'm sorry, Jenny. I couldn't quite make out what you were saying there. I'm sure it was a great point, but Verstappen's car has now been removed. They're now just repairing the tyre barrier down at Copse Corner.
And we should say why also Jonathan Wheatley, Christian Horner got straight on to Michael Massey, because they know now Max is out of the race. He has the 33-point lead in the championship. There's nothing more he can do. So it's only they can cry foul on Lewis Hamilton and try and get Hamilton the biggest penalty possible and negate this deficit, which at the moment Max is going to be taking at the end of this race. So it's inevitable that the Red Bull bosses, of course, will try and get Hamilton and Mercedes penalised for an incident like that, and it's up to the stewards now to make a judgment.
Wonder what Toto Wolff has emailed Michael Massey. Diagrams of something.
Oh, is it diagrams? I thought it was tyres something, but maybe diagrams.
I thought it said diagram.
It's impossible to know, isn't it? Impossible to know.
He didn't CC you in.
He didn't CC me. Well, I haven't checked my emails. I'm working, Jack.
Hey.
But look, it's a sweaty moment now for Red Bull. They're going to be doing everything. They've still got Sergio Perez in the race, but they've probably forgotten about him with most of their intentions, because he's at the back of the field and on some long charge now to see if he can medal towards a McLaren maybe at the end of this Grand Prix. Their big focus was on Max Verstappen, and he's out. Now their focus shifts to try and find the best evidence they can for why Hamilton should be penalised for it.
Alexander Kemp says, #BBC F1, turn that situation around. Lewis is on the outside, Lewis on the outside, Max on the inside, and Lewis is leading the World Championship. I think Lewis backs out, says Alexander Kemp.
The Lewis that raced in Barcelona and raced at Imola maybe does. Certainly the Barcelona Lewis backs out and gives a bit of space there.
23-year-old Lewis?
Possibly doesn't, and they have a crash. The Lewis that had a tangle with Felipe Massa in Monza and then Mark Webber in Singapore, and it potentially cost him a championship. That was in, 2010, when he'd just taken the lead of the championship. It's just the two of them racing super hard, and Lewis has shown maturity, and quite frankly, he has avoided a collision with Verstappen on a couple of occasions at least this year so far. This time, you can't afford to always open the door for the rival in case it's a crash. You can't afford to do that, because then you know, Max would know, every time there's a 50-50, he can be the aggressor, and he knows that Lewis is going to back out. This time, Lewis now 33 points down on the championship, home race, in a Mercedes that's quick. You can't afford to back out, so he's gone for it, and he's stuck the car on the inside at Copse Corner, but he was entitled to the space there, and a crash is the outcome if neither driver backs out.
Sound you were hearing there was just some replays. We're still under red flag conditions, Jenny.
Yeah, well, I can tell you I'm in the corner where it's all going on, which is just underneath the wing by the podium, and both Toto Wolff and Christian Horner have come out of their positions on pit wall and stormed across towards where the stewards are. Toto Wolff, I didn't see him myself, but I spoke to one of the other journalists down here, said he was absolutely furious, stormed out, red eyes, very animated when he came out to see the stewards, and then Toto Wolff, on hearing the news, Christian Horner on hearing the news also came out, and he stormed across looking to know where to go, asking people where should I go to see the stewards. So they're both up there, probably having a shouting match at the moment, and I can tell you, race stewards for this weekend.
I guess that was the racing incident or what? I guess no penalties.
I haven't heard anything. So yeah, under investigation, Valtteri, but no news.
Valtteri Bottas guessing there'll be no penalties.
He, of course, had a good view of it as well, behind Charles Leclerc, so he would have seen what's happened, the teammate of Lewis Hamilton. But if Hamilton does get a penalty, is Bottas then the favourite to win this race? It'll then be Bottas against Leclerc. So, arguably for Bottas right now, even though Lewis Hamilton is his teammate, the best result is that Hamilton does get a severe penalty and Bottas can go and win this race without having to worry about play a team role for Lewis, who is still ahead of him.
Toto Wolff's just come back down from seeing the stewards. He is striding into the pit lane. So that'll be interesting. The stewards this weekend, Nish Shetty, who's a member of the FIA International Court of Appeal. You've also got Dennis Dean, who's a member of the International Sporting Code Review Commission, F2 Formula E steward as well. You've got Loic Bacallan, who's an FIA Formula 3 steward, and a driver steward is Emanuele Pirro this weekend with the national steward Eric Cowgill. So those are the guys that are going to be facing a barrage from Toto Wolff and Christian Horner, both making their cases for why it either is or is not an incident and should or should not be penalised. But it's very unusual to get both team principals striding towards those stewards and basically making their case. And I think that's what Michael Massey said to do, so that's what they've done. But I can tell you, I'm one of about 30 people down here, all journalists and media people waiting to see what happens, and I think even Valtteri Bottas is waiting to see what happened by the sound of it. This is another fascinating twist in the championship, isn't it, this season?
Poor Pirro.
Yeah.
He did Canada with all the controversy with Vettel's 5-second time penalty, and whatever happens today, people ain't going to like Pirro. Whichever side you're on, whatever the decision is.
I can't help but feel, if this was an incident between Lance Stroll and Esteban Ocon for 10th place, it would be a no-brainer to make it a racing incident and carry on. It's the enormity of the incident that's happened at two title rivals, and even more so, one of them is out and the other one is still running at the front. It's huge for the championship moving forward, and that's why it's going to be sweaty for the stewards to make the decision. But I think removing yourself from that, a racing incident has to be the call.
So, let's see what happened to George Russell at the start, because he's dropped down to 14th place. The race is going to be getting underway in 9 minutes' time. He just got a terrible getaway, Russell. Absolutely awful getaway, and just got passed by everybody on the run down towards the first corner. And that was it. That was his positions lost. So, a real shame for the British driver. We'll see whether anyone changes their tyres in this red flag period as well. We're getting a replay of the start from Bottas. Now, Bottas lost out to Leclerc at some point. I think it was just off the line that Charles Leclerc got through and up into third position. And then, I mean, let's not even get into the argument about did Verstappen go all four wheels off at Abbey to keep the lead.
Well, that's the thing. They almost crashed at Abbey in exactly the same way. Again, Hamilton was on the inside and Verstappen just kept turning in, and they almost had the same crash there at a very similar corner at turn one. It's one of those ones, if you're on the outside and you just keep it turned in, you are taking that chance. And we've also seen over the last year or so, the stewards normally are more lenient with incidents on the first lap as well. So I think taking all of it into account, the leniency of some first lap incidents when the cars are racing together and grip is at an unknown level and everything else, I think it's just one of those incidents that was bound to happen and has happened.
Ash says on hashtag BBC F1, if it was the other way around, the commentary team would be screaming for a penalty. Honestly, Ash, maybe I'm deluding myself. I don't think so. But tough to know, obviously. But I honestly don't think so.
Well, the car on the inside they can't vanish. By the time they're on the inside there, and Hamilton was well up the inside, he can't vanish from there. And Verstappen chanced it by still turning in. It's a really risky place to do that. It's risky from both sides, to be honest, and that's why I just think it's a racing incident. From whoever's there on the inside, they can't vanish by the time they go there. So should Lewis have never even tried to go to the inside when he had most of his car alongside Max on the entrance to that corner? With all of this said, I can't see the penalty being more, if there is a penalty for Lewis, being more than 5 seconds, based on everything that we've seen for the last few years. A 5-second penalty here. Red Bull can't be chuffed with that, because Hamilton is still favourite to win the race with a 5-second penalty. So unless they're going to give him a drive-through or a stop-go penalty or exclude him from the race, all the arguments for and against are going to be relatively irrelevant, probably.
You are listening to coverage of the British Grand Prix here on BBC Sport app and BBC Sounds, BBC Radio Northampton. It's a beautiful sunny afternoon, but we are still under red flag conditions. Have been for about half an hour since Max Verstappen and Lewis Hamilton collided on the first lap of this British Grand Prix. They've removed Verstappen's car, they've repaired the barrier, and the race is going to be getting going again in a little under 5 minutes time. Jenny Gao is down in the pit lane and the paddock areas, and Jolyon Palmer, the former Renault F1 driver with 2 British Grand Prix appearances to his name, is alongside me, Jack Nicholls, here in the commentary box at Silverstone. And as it stands, the gap in the championship would come down to 15 points. Hamilton would still trail Verstappen, but it would come down to 15 points. And of course, that's if Charles Leclerc wins the Grand Prix. But it's going to be a tough ask for Charles Leclerc to win this Grand Prix in the Ferrari. He leads it when the race gets back underway. Hamilton second, Bottas third, Norris fourth, Ricciardo fifth, Vettel, Alonso, Sainz, Raikkonen, Ocon the top 10, Stroll, Gasly, Giovinazzi, Russell, Tsunoda the top 15, Schumacher, Latifi, Mazepin, Perez, the 19 drivers still in the Grand Prix, and then Max Verstappen out of the race. Hamilton back in his car, getting ready to head back out onto the circuit and take the start of the race again. And this time it'll be Charles Leclerc that lines up on the front of the grid, not for the first time this season, having started the Azerbaijan race in Baku from pole position. Was meant to start the Monaco Grand Prix in pole position, but didn't start that race, and he will be starting in the lead of this one. Everybody still, well, we'll see whether they've changed the tyres at all, whether that's going to change any... I wouldn't have thought so, being only one lap in. I wouldn't have thought anyone would change their tyres, to be honest, Jolyon.
No, I wouldn't have thought so. They had a free choice of start tyre in the first place. They done one lap, unless someone's gained or lost a lot of positions, which no one really significant has at this moment in time. Then they'll probably stick with what they were originally planning, just with a little bit of a breather before we go again. What can Perez do from the back? This time he can line up on the grid. Can he get himself up to score some points for Red Bull still? And then George Russell, what a shame for him to get a poor start. The first laps have not been good for George. He's so good in qualifying. One lap pace has been spectacular, but often he's lost some ground on the opening laps, and he's lost once again from 12th. Finished 9th yesterday, 3-place grid penalty to be down to 12th. I thought that penalty was harsh as well yesterday. Down to 12th to start, and now he's lost out to Pierre Gasly and Antonio Giovinazzi. His race now looks quite tough to get back towards the points, but as we've seen, anything can happen.
So we are 3 minutes away from the restart of the British Grand Prix. The cars will go out behind the safety car and then line up on the grid, I would have thought, and start the race again, with a few laps shorter, of course. And Verstappen is out of this race, the only driver that is out of the Grand Prix. And as it stands, of course, there would be no points scored for Red Bull, with Sergio Perez down in 19th position and Verstappen out of the race.
Yeah, I mean, he had a 51G accident. I mean, that's... thank God he walked away. That's the biggest result that we'll have today. So, yeah, just relieved to see him. He's in the medical centre, but he's walked in there on his own. He's doing a 30-minute precautionary check, but hopefully, you know, so far so good.
We heard Jonathan on the phone to Michael Massey. What's your view of the incident?
For me, it's very clear. I mean, Lewis has stuck a wheel up the inside at one of the fastest corners on this World Championship. He's driven this circuit for years. You know, you don't do that here. And, you know, the result, thank God, we haven't had a driver that's been seriously injured or worse today.
Right, Christian, thank you very much. Thank you.
Well, strong words from Christian Horner there, speaking to Lawrence Barretto in the pit lane at Silverstone, and kind of echoing what he said earlier on, really, isn't he? As we wait for the British Grand Prix to get back underway, we are close to restarting, and in fact we're only a minute and a half away before the cars will head back out, so the fans that have waited around a long time for the start of the Grand Prix have had, well, enough drama in that opening lap to really see them through the rest of the day, to be perfectly honest with you. But we've still got pretty much a full-length Grand Prix to come. And this conversation about who was to blame, who was not to blame, is going to run and run and run. And it was 51G impact, says Christian Horner. They have these kind of data loggers inside the cars. And it was a big one for Verstappen. The whole left side of the Red Bull absolutely ruined, and Verstappen winded as he got out of the car. Very, very big accident for the Dutchman. It is great to see him walk away, but now we're going to focus on the restart of the Grand Prix, and things have fallen quite nicely for Lando Norris. We were saying at the start of this race that the British driver, if he wanted to get on the podium, would need a little misfortune for someone in front, and that has befallen Max Verstappen. So I think the Norris-Leclerc battle is going to be quite interesting for, I think, what will ultimately be the last podium position. Is this now going to be a walkover for Mercedes? But they're starting second and third, Leclerc on pole for Ferrari.
Well, speaking to Lando yesterday, he was very impressed with the Ferrari's pace, and he said he just couldn't get onto terms even in clear air. The Ferrari was quicker than the McLaren, and now Norris in fourth has two Mercedes between him and Leclerc. So Leclerc is in the lead of the race, but even if the Mercedes are too quick, he certainly is going to be eyeing the podium. Hamilton pulls away in second as we go around to the grid again, and his car looks okay. Mercedes were not working furiously on that either during the red flag, so it looks like the car's okay, and we'll just wait for a steward's decision.
Yeah, they fixed a few bits and bobs on it, I think, but nothing too dramatic, as the cars now peel out of the pits and make their way behind the safety car. Charles Leclerc on pole, Hamilton second, Bottas third, Norris fourth, Ricciardo fifth, Vettel sixth in the Aston Martin, Fernando Alonso seventh in the Alpine, and Alonso, in seventh, just ahead of the fellow Spaniard Carlos Sainz. Raikkonen ninth, Ocon 10th, Stroll, Gasly, Giovinazzi, Russell and Tsunoda will be the top 15. Schumacher, Latifi, Mazepin and Perez will be the 19 drivers when this British Grand Prix gets back underway here on BBC Radio Northampton. And let's go down to Jenny Gow.
Yeah, just looking at Max Verstappen's car, or what's left of it, absolute bits and pieces that they're putting into large red bin bags. And I think Max Verstappen's been very lucky, because to me it looks like the crash structure and around the roll hoop has been affected. Big gouges in that as well. So we hope Max Verstappen's doing okay. He was taken to the medical centre, but a really nasty incident and huge damage on that Red Bull.
Yeah, it really was. And I think that's what the red flag and the delay was for, because they needed to check that everything was okay in the car, because these days there's so many electric components that can get damaged and obviously cause issues if a marshal is trying to clear it away. So that would be my prediction as to what the concern was, because for quite some time there were two Red Bull engineers crouched down next to the car before they let the marshals clear it away. But Verstappen did get out of the car by himself.
What is the safety car doing? Why aren't they going quicker?
Charles Leclerc asking why isn't the safety car going quicker, as he is weaving around trying to get some temperature into those tyres. We are at 29.8 degrees air temperature now, almost hitting 30 on this baking day at Silverstone. Track temperature at 50.5, and I think this is the hottest British Grand Prix of all time now if it hits 30 degrees. Certainly very warm, and the crowds in the grandstands have been treated to some big drama at Silverstone, and now they're on their feet applauding their drivers who are going to come round again, and we're going to go again. What does Leclerc do? How hard does Leclerc fight? How hard does Hamilton fight? Where does Bottas come into all of this as well?
Well, Leclerc will not fight Hamilton as hard as Verstappen did on the first start, and Hamilton won't fight Leclerc as hard. What can Leclerc do in the Ferrari? That had really good race pace. can he do something remarkable and hold on, certainly for as long as possible. But Hamilton, I think, now can bide his time. His main title rival is not in the race, so he can bide his time and not take those risks anymore.
So, lap 4 of 52, about to get underway. So the cars lined up on the grid. Yep, we're about to restart again, Mark. 45 minutes after the last try, where Hamilton got a better start than Verstappen, tried to overtake him 3 times before they finally collided at Copse Corner. Hamilton sent Verstappen into the barriers on the outside, so Charles Leclerc in the Ferrari is going to be on pole position for this restart of the race. We're on lap 4 of 52. The race is going to get underway again with a standing start. Here come the lights. Leclerc on pole position, Hamilton alongside him. Bottas and Norris are on the second row of the grid as the race gets underway again. Hamilton again gets a decent getaway, but he's not quite close enough to challenge Leclerc. Valtteri Bottas has lost out to Lando Norris. Lando Norris in the McLaren has got ahead of Valtteri Bottas' Mercedes and is up into 3rd place. There's also a challenge coming in from Daniel Ricciardo. He's trying to get past Bottas as well, but Charles Leclerc in the Ferrari holds the lead. Lewis Hamilton is in 2nd place, Lando Norris 3rd, Bottas is in 4th. Sainz is going side by side with Sebastian Vettel as they fight over 7th position, but Charles Leclerc in the Ferrari has got out in front. Hamilton, Jolie and Palmer sitting in 2nd place. Neat, tidy, quiet start from him.
Yeah, not so much drama at the front this time, but once again, Valtteri Bottas losing a place off the line. Last time to Charles Leclerc, who now leads the race, and this time it's Lando Norris through.
And there's a spin for Lance Stroll coming out of the right-hander at Luffield, but it is Charles Leclerc leading the Grand Prix, Hamilton 2nd, Bottas in 3rd. Full commentary on the BBC Sport website and app. And I think it was Sebastian Vettel, my apologies, that spun in the Aston Martin. So Leclerc leading the way, Hamilton, Norris, Bottas, Ricciardo the top 5. Alonso is in 6th place after a great fight with Carlos Sainz. Stroll, Raikkonen and Giovinazzi are the top 10. Russell has gained 1 place on this restart.
That's Sebastian Vettel spinning to the back that Russell's gained. So it's Leclerc from Hamilton, from Lando Norris up in 3rd. And then Valtteri Bottas, who held off Daniel Ricciardo in the hairpins of turns 3 and 4, Village and the loop. That's important for Bottas, but what can he do now to fight back on Norris for this 2nd race in a row? He's got to try and pass Lando or make something work in the strategy.
10-second time penalty for Lewis Hamilton for causing a collision. A 10-second time penalty for Lewis Hamilton for causing a collision. That's what the stewards have decided. So there we go. For me, I think it was a racing incident, but in the context of yesterday, George Russell's collision, etc., etc., it's kind of to be expected, I suppose, as Carlos Sainz now makes a move on Fernando Alonso around the outside, and Sainz in the Ferrari gets up into 6th place. Jenny Gow.
Yeah, Vettel now trailing. He did manage to recover his Aston Martin, so he's at the back of the field just trying to catch up with everybody else after the spin. And I have to say, when the crowd saw the announcement about that 10-second penalty, they booed, and you could hear it ringing out around Silverstone. Just a note on that Mercedes, there wasn't much damage to Hamilton's car, aside from the wheel rims. They have changed the tyres as permitted, but no damage that they needed to really sort out from that incident with Verstappen.
Brilliant move from Carlos Sainz around his fellow Spaniard Fernando Alonso. Sainz now up to 6th in the other Ferrari, which has been very quick. I think it's a harsh penalty for Hamilton, the 10 seconds particularly. I'm not sure where that number's come from, but obviously Red Bull have won that mini argument. But now what can Lewis Hamilton do with that 10 seconds, which he'll have to take at the pit stop? He'll have to sit in the pit box for an extra 10 seconds. And it's therefore going to be taken earlier than if it was after the pit stop and it would be added on at the end of the race. And Lewis right now needs to pass Leclerc to build up that gap and try and negate the 10 seconds. Because if he's stuck in traffic, 10 seconds is going to add on a lot of time behind where there's a lot of closely bunched cars still.
I'm presuming that the 10 seconds comes because the other driver is out of the Grand Prix rather than, and it's a 5 seconds if the driver continues or something along those lines, I imagine would be the stewards' theories with that. But we have got, and the Vettel spin was very strange coming out of Luffield, a very sort of rookie kind of spin from Vettel, who's looked on so much better form recently.
Yeah, he was running well, just in behind Daniel Ricciardo. Had Fernando Alonso coming around the outside of him, and as he's gone for the throttle, he's just lost it on his own. And that was a Vettel Ferrari spec spin from a couple of years ago, where he had that run of just being on the inside of another car and maybe missing a bit of downforce from Alonso coming around the outside, but also just a bit too eager on the throttle, and Vettel looping it on his own down to the back of the pack.
Charles Leclerc leads the British Grand Prix. The Ferrari driver 1.6 seconds ahead of Lewis Hamilton in the Mercedes. Then it is Lando Norris in third place, 1.4 seconds back from Hamilton. Valtteri Bottas dropped behind Norris at the start and is down into fourth position, with Ricciardo in fifth in the other McLaren. Sainz is sixth. Alonso, Stroll, Ocon, Raikkonen, the rest of the top 10. Then you've got Gasly, Giovinazzi, Russell, Perez, Tsunoda, the top 15. Latifi, Schumacher, Mazepin and Vettel. The 19 drivers still running. And Leclerc's lead 1.5 seconds over Lewis Hamilton. So we'll see how, I guess, aggressive Hamilton's going to be in the early stages of this Grand Prix.
DRS now enabled, so if he can get within 1 second of Leclerc, he can have some closing speed in a couple of zones around here, down towards Brooklands, and then the hanger straight as well into Stoke.
So we probably need to push on now. So the situation has changed compared to this morning with this 10-second penalty.
So the situation has changed compared to this morning with this 10-second penalty. So is that a different strategy? Is that a... Obviously the situation has changed with the 10-second penalty, but it sounds like they were looking to do a different plan by saying that.
They must have been, but the situation has clearly changed because the man that they're trying to beat has changed. Verstappen out of the race, and he would have been a lot harder to beat than Leclerc in the Ferrari. Leclerc's still going to meet some opposition here, particularly with Hamilton carrying that 10-second penalty. Leclerc, if he can stay within 10 seconds or even stay ahead of Hamilton, he's going to be leading after the, what we expect, only stop at the Grand Prix. But the situation's changed in a couple of ways, really. 10-second penalty, Hamilton taking it relatively on the chin, and he's just nothing he can do about that, really. Head down and try and pass the Ferrari ahead to build up that buffer.
Hamilton sets the fastest lap of the Grand Prix. We're on lap 8 of 52 in the British Grand Prix at Silverstone. The gap comes down to 1.3 seconds between he in second place and the Ferrari of Charles Leclerc out in front. Lando Norris is in fourth position. Fifth is Daniel Ricciardo. Sergio Perez has made his way up into 13th place. He's got ahead of George Russell. Coming down the hanger straight, moved to the inside, and it was a fairly straightforward manoeuvre for the Red Bull driver as he gets closer and closer to the top 10. This is the British Grand Prix at Silverstone, the first Grand Prix with this many fans for a long, long time. Silverstone always one of the most well-attended events, full stop, on the calendar, but not really since Abu Dhabi at the end of 2019 have we seen so many fans at a racetrack. Well, not true. Melbourne, 2020, they were all there, but all got sent home. Lap 8 of 52, Jolyon Palmer alongside me, Jack Nicholls, Jenny Gow with you as well. And Lance Stroll has made up 8 places off his grid slot. Sorry, 6 places off his grid slot. So he's one of the highest climbers in the opening laps. But Charles Leclerc is leading. Hamilton now trying to get within 1 second of him. Jenny Gow.
Yeah, he's just coming around now. The Scarlet Ferrari dashes past me with the number 16 emblazoned on its back, and Hamilton closing all the time, trying to catch up with Charles Leclerc, and the fans willing him on as he goes past. It's a real spectacle as the TV helicopter dashes above the heads of all of the cars, and the fans and their flags are rippling. This is an exciting race for them. They are cheering everybody on every lap.
Well, they're seeing a drama-filled afternoon so far. Fairly settled at the moment, with Leclerc 1.2 seconds ahead of Hamilton. Norris has dropped 3 seconds back from those two. Leclerc is running reasonably well, actually.
Still same strategy?
Yeah, A-firm, Lewis.
Hamilton asking still the same strategy. Peter Bonington, his engineer, saying yes.
Probably he wants to go a bit longer now. If with the 10-second penalty, try and leave it as much time in that Mercedes.
as possible to mean that he's not going to tumble back through the order when he has to take it at the pit stop. There's no point having an early pit stop to try and undercut Leclerc because he's going to be sitting in the pits, and he's only then going to be able to be overcut effectively by everyone else who doesn't have the 10 seconds added onto their pit stop. So Hamilton's got to either pass Leclerc or hope that Leclerc right now can pull out enough of a gap to those behind. And Fernando Alonso in 7th is already 13 seconds back, so the gaps are just starting to widen. Leclerc's really quick though. He's pulling away from Norris quite well in 3rd. Norris not able to go with the top 2. 3 seconds now between the two Brits. Hamilton in 2nd, Norris in 3rd. Bottas still bunched up behind Lando, but that gap just opening, and that's going to be maybe a chance for Hamilton to pit and not really lose anything.
Lap 10 of 52. Leclerc 1.1 seconds ahead of Hamilton. Norris in 3rd, Bottas 4th, Ricciardo in 5th position, Sainz in 6th. Alonso and Stroll are fairly close together on the circuit. The tightest battle in the top 10 really, other than that for the lead, with Alonso and Stroll separated by less than a second. So I think Lance Stroll in the Aston Martin is going to have the DRS this time around. We'll see whether he's able to close in and get ahead of the Alpine for 7th place. Esteban Ocon is in 9th, Raikkonen is in 10th. Antonio Giovinazzi has lost out to Sergio Perez, so he's dropped down to 13th position. And Alonso and Stroll down towards Brooklands with the BRDC, the British Racing Drivers Clubhouse, on their right-hand side as they turn into that left-hander and then loop around the Luffield corner and out towards Copse once more, where that accident took place very early on at the start of this Grand Prix on the opening lap. And the gap at the front between Leclerc and Hamilton just creeps up a little as they come through Maggots and Beckett's, up to 1.3 seconds. So Hamilton's struggling to get within Charles Leclerc's DRS range at the moment, the drag reduction system, so he can pop open the little slot in the rear wing, give him less drag in a straight line and try and close in on Leclerc, but he can only do that if he's within 1 second of the driver in front. Down towards Stowe comes the continuing battle between Alonso and Stroll. Perez's next target in the Red Bull is Pierre Gasly in the AlphaTauri, and the AlphaTauri is being held up behind Kimi Raikkonen, so Perez is pretty close to the points here already.
Yeah, he's on a charge now. He needs to get his head down as he is on the hard tyre. It's going to take him a long way into the race, and then make use of the pace of the Red Bull as well after he either passes these guys or they pit off from in front of him. This is the sound on board the Mexican, completing lap 10, crossing the line and into Abbey corner once again. Abbey and Farm, right and then left, and then down the gears for Village and the loop. Another right, left, but much slower, and an overtaking chance if Perez could be closer, but he's not quite yet. He will get the DRS though this time on Pierre Gasly ahead.
Down the Wellington Straight, named after the Wellington bombers that were flown at Silverstone in its previous form as a World War II airbase, into Brooklands, named after the first permanent racetrack in the world, built down in Surrey in the early 1920s. I've committed to that. I nearly went 1921, but I'm not. It's 21 or 23, I'm sure of it. Lap 11 of 52. And Sergio Perez, the Mexican, racing for Red Bull for the first season. And he needs to clear as many cars as he can, Jenny, before the pit stops begin.
He absolutely does. He's having a great drive, though, coming back and doing a recovery special, which is what he's known for on so many occasions, isn't it? Lewis Hamilton closing down once again as his Mercedes flashes past me. 18 seconds is the amount of time it takes to come in, change all 4 tyres and then get back out again. It's actually quicker to go through the pit lane than it is the racing line. Everyone will hold on as long as they can on these tyres, because if there was a safety car, that reduces the amount of time it takes to stop by half. So around 10 seconds to come in and change those tyres and get back out again, because of the slow speed that everybody else will be out. So they'll try and hold on as long as they can, but we're reckoning the pit window opens around lap 18 to 25 if you started on the medium tyres, like everyone but Perez.
I was way out with Brooklands. 1907. Sorry, everybody. 1907, Brooklands opens, the first permanent racetrack in the world. Lap 12 of 52 in the British Grand Prix here on the BBC Sport website and app and on BBC Radio Northampton. Thank you very much for joining us for what is a fantastic spectacle of these 19 drivers fighting their way around the Silverstone circuit in a beautiful summer day. 29.9 degrees the air temperature now. Track temperature up at 50.4 degrees, so it's very hot for those Pirelli tyres out there. And it is Charles Leclerc who leads. Hamilton is second. Hamilton and Verstappen having collided on the opening lap of the race. We then had a long red flag period, and now Leclerc is in front. But here's his radio.
We are planning plan B or plan C for now, plan B or plan C.
That's Carlos Sainz actually in the other Ferrari being told we're looking at plan B or plan C. Hamilton's 10-second penalty, were he to just have it applied to him now, would already only put him into 5th place. So by the end of this Grand Prix, I feel like we might not, the 10-second penalty might not be a huge issue for Hamilton.
He'll have to do some overtaking if he wants to win, though, that's for sure.
And we are going to plan B, plan B.
And Leclerc is going to plan B as well.
So is that to extend the strategy of the Ferrari drivers to go a little bit longer before they pit? Things are looking good for Charles Leclerc at the moment, 1.5 seconds ahead of Hamilton, and there's no way that Hamilton can overcut or undercut Leclerc. Leclerc is safe from attack from the driver behind.
Just keep doing what you're doing, it will come to you.
Valtteri Bottas being told, keep doing what you're doing, it'll come to you. He's running in 4th place at the moment, behind Lando Norris, 1.6 seconds behind the McLaren driver.
Of course, he can overcut or undercut Lando Norris, and that's what Mercedes are telling him there. Valtteri, keep calm, stay close to the back of Norris ahead, because then we've got some options on the strategy and it will come to you later. Hamilton, I'm sure, will be on a charge later, but with that 10-second penalty hanging over him at the pit stop, it'll be too long, and he's going to tumble down the order with that. But with every lap, that gap is just growing and growing. He's 1 second a lap quicker than Daniel Ricciardo and Carlos Sainz, so pretty much now he'll pit and come out ahead of Ricciardo and be on the back of his teammate already.
Sound you can hear is Sergio Perez getting closer and closer to the back of Pierre Gasly for 11th position. The Red Bull and the AlphaTauri fighting, and they're both trying to get past Kimi Raikkonen in 10th place, who's dropping back a little from Esteban Ocon's Alpine. The Frenchman running in 9th position. And we're on lap 14 of 52 in the British Grand Prix. Personal best lap of the race set by Lance Stroll, although he has dropped just over a second back from Fernando Alonso now, after they were fairly close for a reasonable amount of time. Gasly only 6/10 off the back of Raikkonen as they come up into the right-hander of Village and then into the left-hander at the loop, but not able to make an overtake there.
And Sergio Perez stuck now behind Pierre Gasly. There's a DRS train with Gasly within 1 second of Kimi Raikkonen ahead. He's got DRS to try and pass him, but behind him he's got Perez with DRS trying to pass Gasly as well. And Perez, therefore, doesn't have a big overspeed on the driver ahead, because Gasly's trying to pass his own rival, the Alfa Romeo Kimi Raikkonen. So DRS for the two of them. It's Gasly that needs to try and put a move on Kimi Raikkonen, and then Perez can focus on that. It's always very difficult to make waves in a DRS train.
It's hard to get this rear down, man. They're not stabilising.
They have stabilised, Lewis, we're just waiting to get that drop.
Waiting to get that drop.
Talking about the tyre temps on the rear, maybe. I assume. Waiting to get that drop. Not entirely sure what that means. Is he waiting for a gap to open up so he can make his pit stop? Is that what they're trying to do? We'll have to wait and see. So far, no one pitting across the entire field. And the longer Hamilton goes, the worse the damage is going to be in terms of track position. He's now lapping 6/10 a lap quicker than Valtteri Bottas as well, and he's over 6 seconds clear of Bottas. So if he can keep going, he's going to come out somewhere near his teammate in the stop. Charles Leclerc in all of this is looking really strong out there.
Yeah, looks like a very good afternoon for the Monegasque racer for Ferrari. He leads the British Grand Prix. Lewis Hamilton is 1.2 seconds back after a collision on the opening lap with Max Verstappen, his title rival, the championship leader, who is out of the Grand Prix.
No, the engine cut. The engine stopped. He's going again. Tell me what's happening.
You can go ahead, continue, keep going.
Charles Leclerc on the radio saying the engine is cutting out a little. He's 1 second ahead of Lewis Hamilton as Hamilton closes in. Myself, Jack Nicholls, former F1 driver Jolyon Palmer, and Jenny Gow with you here on BBC Radio 5 Live, and Hamilton is closing that gap, Jenny.
Yes, he is. They flash past him, and it's definitely coming down. You're right. Leclerc saying he's got a power unit problem. The team saying just carry on. But the problem is for Hamilton, he needs to build some sort of lead. The field's very compacted.
Driver default, Alpha 5, 6 on. 5, 6 on. Everything should be fine now.
Well, Charles Leclerc being told what to do, Jenny, and then everything will be fine now.
Well, that's all right then. Just believe your engineer and everything will be fine. Yeah, Hamilton having to serve this 10-second penalty when he comes in for the crash with Verstappen means it'll turn into a 28-second pit stop. Just look at how many people in that field with 28 seconds. If he were to stop now, it'd come out, you know, around 12th, 13th. Is that right?
Yeah, but it's obviously only 10 seconds extra than anyone else, so he would come out in 5th as it stands, running in 2nd place at the moment, Lewis Hamilton.
Were everyone to make a pit stop, which they all have to do still. No one can go to the end of the race yet. They need to use 2 different compounds of tyre.
So Leclerc reporting engine cut, so maybe a lack of power, but yeah, we'll keep an eye on it. We're happy to pick up the pace. We're happy to pick up the pace.
Yeah, what menu?
Menu dash position 5. Position 5.
Hamilton asking what he's meant to do on his steering wheel. So complex are the steering wheels in modern Formula 1 cars, but Hamilton now is right on the back of Charles Leclerc for the lead of the British Grand Prix. You can hear him rumbling over the curbs on the left-hand side on the exit of Stowe, and then down into the left-hander of Vale, and then looping right through Club. And last time across the line there was 1.2 seconds between them. This time across the line the gap comes down to 1 second. Hamilton almost in DRS range.
Again. There's a cut with the engine.
Leclerc getting stressed, his Ferrari engine cutting out from underneath him after they said it would be fine.
He's just done a personal best lap of the race. I think that might be from the lap before where he lost a chunk of time, but now he's got the Mercedes bearing down on him. The pressure grows, and if that happens again, Lewis is in a position to strike this time. He's got DRS open down towards Brooklands at turn 6, but not close enough to make a move just yet. But he can smell the chance to take the lead now.
Through the right-hander of Luffield they come, in front of the old pit straight. Leclerc right up to the curbs.
We are trying to solve it. We think with the wreck we should be fine.
Leclerc being told again should be fine, but the crowd are starting to cheer Hamilton on as he chases down the Ferrari for the race lead. Ferrari's first ever Formula 1 victory came 70 years ago at Silverstone in the British Grand Prix. And now Leclerc is leading, trying to hold off Lewis Hamilton. The sound you can hear is Hamilton's Mercedes going up through the gears. He's got the DRS open as he comes down the back straight towards Stowe Corner, hitting 200 miles an hour before he swings it into the fast right-hand turn. And Leclerc is holding the lead, but only just as they come down into Vale. But again, there's got to be a certain amount of patience from Hamilton.
Leclerc's pace is still solid enough. The last lap he was quicker than Lando Norris in 3rd. Hamilton's closing in again. Leclerc does a personal best, but just Hamilton is just now cranking on the pressure. Fastest lap of the Grand Prix for Lewis in 2nd place. 2 tenths quicker than Leclerc. He's well within a second now, 7 tenths back, and they're coming towards the DRS zone through the right-hander of Village, then the loop, then out through Aintree, turn 5, and he'll get DRS and can try and attack Charles this time.
Lap 18 of 52. Charles Leclerc leading the British Grand Prix.
So the problem seems solved now. Continue as normal. Hamilton is starting to have some blisters.
So Leclerc being told, honestly this time, genuinely, I promise, the problem is solved. And carry on as normal, and Hamilton's starting to have some blisters. Ferrari, what I like about this is Ferrari, they're racing this. They're not just settling, well, we can't race with the Mercedes, we'll just make sure we beat the McLarens. They are going for it.
Well, Hamilton has a 10-second penalty still, so even if Lewis gets through, Leclerc needs to stay within 10 seconds of Hamilton, and he can get him back in the stops effectively, and the pit stops now can't be that far away, particularly with some blisters being reported. Once again, Hamilton with DRS down the hangar straight now towards Stowe, but he's not close enough to make a move, and it's not a big braking zone there either. You have got to be right alongside to go for it, but it is race on. This is the chance. If Hamilton can make it past, then we'll see the true pace of the Mercedes in clear air, and he might be able to really put the hammer down and make up a lot of that 10-second deficit.
Race order in the British Grand Prix as they come over the line to start lap 19 of 52.
Hamilton behind with DRS. Tyres are okay for plan B.
Charles Leclerc, the race leader, being told that his tyres are okay for plan B, whatever that strategy is going to be. No one has made a pit stop yet in this race. Hamilton is second. Lando Norris in the McLaren doing a great job in third place, a second and a half clear of Valtteri Bottas in the Mercedes. Fifth is Daniel Ricciardo, sixth is Carlos Sainz, seventh Fernando Alonso, eighth Lance Stroll, ninth Esteban Ocon, 10th, but also into the pits comes Kimi Raikkonen in the Alfa Romeo. Max Verstappen was out of this race on the opening lap after a crash with Lewis Hamilton at Copse Corner. Absolutely massive accident. Sergio Perez comes into the pits as well, puts on a set of medium tyres now, so he's come out in the middle of the pack after having to start at the back of the grid after a spin in yesterday's qualifying sprint race. And we are on lap 19 of 52. When will Leclerc, Hamilton, Norris, the front runners, decide to come into the pit lane? Leclerc and Norris are both having great races. Obviously they're first and third, but Daniel Ricciardo is really struggling to keep anywhere near Valtteri Bottas. Bottas isn't able to get past Norris, but on paper Ricciardo should still be in that queue.
We've almost got a 2x2 at the moment now. Leclerc and Hamilton very closely matched, although Leclerc on the last time around was 5 thousandths off the fastest lap, and he's actually just extending the gap back up again. So Hamilton closing it down for a couple of laps.
Copy, Lewis.
And
Some
now
stops are starting to happen now.
And now Leclerc does do the fastest lap of the race, as Hamilton is reporting those blisters which Ferrari saw and told Leclerc about a couple of laps ago. So the gap now 1.7 seconds. Then there's 4.8 seconds back to the battle for third, Norris and Bottas, and they are nearly a second a lap quicker than Daniel Ricciardo, who's just holding Carlos Sainz back in the battle for fifth and sixth.
Lap 20 of 52 in the British Grand Prix here on BBC Radio Northampton, as well as the BBC Sounds app and the BBC Sport website. Sergio Perez with his new tyres is trying to get past Kimi Raikkonen, and that's a battle for a net position actually, and he goes to the outside, coming down into the left-hander of Vale.
And Lando, like 100% pace, please, 100% pace. Confident.
Lando Norris being told go as fast as you can now. They presumably are going to be pitting fairly soon from third place. Here comes Perez side by side into Abbey with Kimi Raikkonen, and Raikkonen holds the place. Perez ducks back in behind him, then goes for it down into Vale. Raikkonen turns in, gives him space still. Great fighting here between Raikkonen and Perez. Surely this is going to be the opportunity for Perez to breeze past as they come out through the left-hander of Aintree down the Wellington Straight. Perez will have the DRS, he'll go to the inside, and he gets ahead of Kimi Raikkonen for what was 10th position. We'll see what shakes out after that.
Christian Horner's not told Perez that you don't stick a nose in on a fast corner, has he? Wow, Perez on the inside of turn one, which by the way is a similar speed as Copse is flat out in qualifying, right on the edge in the race. And I thought that was going to be an action replay of Hamilton and Verstappen, but this time they didn't touch, and now Perez does come past and has finally got that place. He's been bottled up behind Kimi for a while, but with Pierre Gasly in the way, in between the two, now Gasly stayed out, Perez and Raikkonen pit, and Perez straight away past Kimi Raikkonen.
Ricciardo pits for McLaren. Up, down, away he goes, and didn't look like the quickest of pit stops there, 2.8 seconds, so not bad for McLaren, not absolutely rapid, but he pits from fifth position, the first of the top five to pit. Will that bring everyone else? Well, not really, because he wasn't really close enough to threaten anyone ahead of him.
It's a defensive move for McLaren there to try and protect from Carlos Sainz, who was quicker in the second of the Ferraris. Sainz was right on the tail of Ricciardo within a second, so McLaren protecting from the undercut. What does Sainz do now? What does Ferrari do? Do they put the hammer down and try one more lap of overcut to try and clear out Ricciardo? Or do they go long now when we get the old classic Sainz coming through on fresher tyres later on?
Lap 21 of 52, the British Grand Prix. Charles Leclerc leading 1.8 seconds ahead of Lewis Hamilton, even though Hamilton, actually Leclerc's setting his personal best lap on this race. In fact, it's going to be the fastest lap of the race, I think, as he comes out through the final corner. Lando Norris pits. Charles Leclerc saying the engine's cutting out again, but again, he sets the fastest lap of the race and extends his lead to 2 seconds over Hamilton now. So they're doing a good job of building that gap. Into the pits comes Lando Norris. How clean is this pit stop going to be for the British driver? It's not clean at all. And it takes an awful long time for him to get away. Couldn't quite spot where that issue was, but he lost 4 seconds in the pits, Lando Norris. Absolutely devastating, and he rejoins the circuit now. It'll drop him out behind Valtteri Bottas. That might be the worst of it, to be fair, for Norris, but the podium possibility might have just slipped away.
Yeah, it's probably gone there for Norris, and that will allow Hamilton to take his 10 seconds and be right with Lando as well. So great news for Mercedes, that slow stop for their customer team. Norris held us agonising for him. And Bottas, who profited from Sergio Perez having a slow stop in Austria to get back to third place, he's just going to be profiting now. He can pit on this lap and he'll emerge ahead of Lando Norris. Slow stop there for McLaren, and that's heartbreak for Norris at his home Grand Prix.
Just getting a replay of it right rear then. It was the right rear tyre that wouldn't go on, and that cost him 4 seconds and potentially the podium, but still a long way to go. Only on lap 22 of 52 in the British Grand Prix. Myself, Jack Nicholls, Jolyon Palmer and Jenny Gow with you. Jenny.
Valtteri Bottas comes into the pit lane, slams on his brakes, get down to 80 kilometres per hour. He'll pull into the Mercedes pit box. 23 men will crawl over that car. They'll take off them used medium tyres and they'll put on the hard tyres, and away he goes. Hopefully, yeah, a clean start for Valtteri Bottas. That should mean he comes out in front of Lando Norris. A really annoying pit stop for them. McLaren have been doing so much better. Just let them down at this final moment where it was so important.
Yeah, that's really, really frustrating, isn't it? As Valtteri Bottas emerges back onto the racetrack, actually side by side and only just ahead of Norris. Norris locks up and he's there or thereabouts in the fight. I'm not quite sure how, but Lando Norris is not a million miles away, unless that's Ricciardo. Here they come. Here comes Bottas now. He's got to try and clear the Alpine fairly promptly of Fernando Alonso, which he does do, and he is ahead of Norris, but I'm not quite sure why they were so close.
Lando did the fastest middle sector of the race on his outlap. Wow. He was desperate to try and make up the time, and so Bottas with the overcut on his used tyres compared to Norris's new tyres. The new tyres were quicker, but that extra 4 seconds in the pit stop costing Lando there the position. And then the lock up at turn 3 as well just meant he wasn't quite in range to get in the mix with Fernando Alonso and Bottas, and sadly for Norris as well. Alonso didn't make it particularly hard for Bottas. If Fernando had done his trademark elbows out, then it might have helped Norris to get back into that fight with Bottas, but he didn't. So Bottas back into 4th place. Alonso hasn't pitted his 5th, and then it's the sound of Lando Norris into Stowe Corner, now 6th place, but a couple of drivers ahead haven't pitted, Carlos Sainz and Fernando Alonso.
And Norris goes past Alonso now, down into the left-hander of Vale, and we'll see whether he's able to chase down Valtteri Bottas or whether the pace from the Finn in the Mercedes is just going to be too much and he will pull away. Charles Leclerc leads and has yet to stop. Hamilton is 2nd and has yet to stop. Carlos Sainz is 3rd, has yet to stop. Then the first of the pit stoppers is Valtteri Bottas in 4th place, ahead of Lando Norris, Pierre Gasly, Fernando Alonso, Lance Stroll has pitted, Antonio Giovinazzi's pitted, so the middle of the order is a little bit mixed up at the moment, and fastest first sector of anyone for Valtteri Bottas. He's gone onto the hard compound of tyre, as has Norris.
Carlos Sainz still going really well, hasn't pitted, was stuck behind Daniel Ricciardo, teammate to the race leader. Charles Leclerc still 2 seconds clear of Lewis Hamilton. Then it's Carlos Sainz, 20 seconds back from his teammate, but now he's in clear air. He's doing his personal best laps of the race.
And Charles, do not upshift if you have the engine cut. Do not upshift if engine cut.
Do not upshift if the engine cuts out. So I guess, so interesting. So if well, we're riding with Leclerc at the moment, and we'll listen for any engine cuts. But I guess why? Yeah, trying to work that one out.
It was okay into Village, but the engine cut's clearly not sorted then, and then that is presumably for a reliability concern to make sure you've got enough torque in the engine when you're taking the upshifts. And Leclerc, I mean, this is really hard stuff, leading from Lewis Hamilton. Hamilton still with that 10-second penalty looming over him, so the threat is not imminent, but it will be there by the end.
Fernando Alonso leaves the garage in the Alpine. 5.4 second pit stop for Alpine, so they lost 3.5 seconds or so in the pit lane with Fernando Alonso's stop. and we'll see where he's going to emerge. He was fighting with Lance Stroll. Stroll came in the lap earlier, and I think that's Stroll going ahead of Alonso. They're going to be side by side, and Alonso's going to send it coming into Village. Stroll goes around the outside and holds the place. So Stroll has taken that position, but Alonso is going to get the run on him as they come out through the loop at Aintree and down the Wellington Straight. Gets into the slipstream of the Aston Martin, goes to the outside, right up towards the rear wheel, and Alonso gets back into the place. So Lance Stroll had taken that position with the undercut for Aston Martin, but Alonso's come out on his fresh tyres and managed to retake the position. That'll be a frustrating one for Stroll.
Alonso into ninth. Yuki Tsunoda ahead in the AlphaTauri. Hasn't pitted. Pierre Gasly still hasn't pitted as well. He's up in 7th. So there's a couple more places out there for Fernando Alonso. Keep his head down. No more pit stops for him. Everyone pitting from the medium onto the hard tyre. And the medium seems pretty durable as well.
Fernando Alonso saying he's got a problem on the radio now. Fastest lap of the race goes to Valtteri Bottas.
It had just gone to Carlos Sainz.
Yeah.
On, 25 lap old, medium tyres. Sainz has got some pace. The Ferraris are really, really quick here on race pace.
Lap 26 of 52. Leclerc leading the Grand Prix, now 2.3 seconds clear of Hamilton, and Hamilton is pushing. He's setting his personal best laps of the Grand Prix. Just getting a replay. It was the right rear as well for Fernando Alonso that was slow, and but Hamilton setting his personal best lap of the race each time. Alonso was so close to the back of Stroll when he overtook him, just sort of seemingly unnecessarily close, but he judged it to perfection.
Maximising the slipstream, not wanting to pull out before he absolutely had to, was so close to just nudging the back of Stroll in a similar way to Raikkonen did on his teammate Giovinazzi in Portugal earlier on in the season, but Alonso measured it very well and pulled out at the perfect moment and went around Stroll, super close, but made the move stick then.
And how many laps you can do at this pace? 32.0?
From now I don't see any drop-off.
Copy.
So Leclerc being asked, look, how many laps can you do at this pace? About a 32.0. Leclerc saying, I'm not seeing any drop-off, I'm feeling quite good. Which is a nice thing to feel, I imagine.
Yeah, and he's got, if it's 18 seconds for a pit stop, he can pit now and come out ahead of his teammate still, Carlos Sainz, in effectively the lead of the race, because then Lewis Hamilton's got to pit and take that 10-second penalty. Bottas and Hamilton are the threats for Leclerc still, but Bottas is a long way behind, 27 seconds off the race lead, so Leclerc's still got a buffer back to Bottas and Mercedes.
Is the one to look after.
Bottas being told the rear left tyre is the one to look after.
So they're in a little bit of time management at the moment, and Bottas is not that quick at this stage. He has just done the fastest lap, but it's not that quick compared to the guys on the medium. He's only 0.3 quicker than those that are staying out. Leclerc saying the degradation is not that high. He thinks he can keep going, and he is. The new tyres inevitably are a little bit quicker, but they're not like we've seen before at really high degradation circuits where you can find a second, 2 seconds, even 3 seconds sometimes. Here for Bottas, he's only taking 0.3 out of Carlos Sainz ahead.
Yeah, he's managed to pull away from Lando Norris, and into the pits now comes Hamilton.
Okay, copy.
Hamilton saying front left is dead. He wants to come into the pits. He's going to be very, very close with Valtteri Bottas as he comes into the pit lane now. Hamilton pulls up. They need a neat and tidy stop here, the Mercedes crew, and they're having to wait for the 10-second penalty to be applied before they are allowed to change the tyres. Still waiting with no work going on. Then they're allowed to go. Off go the tyres, on go the hard tyres, and in the end, it's a very neat and tidy pit stop for Lewis Hamilton as he pulls away now. Where is he going to emerge compared to his teammate Valtteri Bottas? Bottas comes across the line, and I think Bottas is miles in front. He's up at turn 4 at the loop.
Norris has gone as well.
Norris has got him too. So the pit stop for Hamilton there was 14 seconds, which is 2 seconds longer than sort of what you would expect. But he's lost a lot of ground there, Hamilton.
Yeah, a 14-second stop. In theory, shouldn't it have just been the 10 seconds plus your 2 second stop?
Yeah.
The pit stop itself, when they were changing the wheels, looked pretty good. But Hamilton's stationary time was very long, 14 seconds, and he's emerged quite a long way behind Lando Norris. He's got 4 seconds to his countrymen ahead. So Norris back up to fourth. Bottas now the lead Mercedes in third. And Hamilton's nearly 10 seconds away from his teammate. So he's lost an extraordinary amount in that phase. We knew he would. We knew he'd lose some positions. But now what can he make up?
And continue like this. You're doing a good job.
Well, and I imagine part of that also is the undercut from Bottas, because Hamilton has gone from, being 10 seconds ahead to 10 seconds behind, effectively.
Well, Bottas was going slightly quicker each lap on his hard tyres. What can Carlos Sainz do in this race? Sainz is 15 seconds ahead of Lewis Hamilton. He dives into the pits now, which will promote Bottas, Norris and Hamilton up. But Sainz has got some really good pace now he's free of Ricciardo.
In comes the Spaniard now, in the Scarlet Ferrari, in the blazing sunshine, 29.8 degrees the air temperature here at Silverstone this afternoon. Skids into his pit box, Carlos Sainz, up he goes, and it's slow for Sainz as well. The front left is not going on, and the Ferrari is still in the pit lane. They've released him now, didn't look wholly confident, but he's lost 10 seconds. And so many pit lane errors today, so many pit lane troubles. Meanwhile, Pierre Gasly is leaving the pits now also for the AlphaTauri team. But that means that Charles Leclerc leads the Grand Prix. He has yet to make a pit stop. Bottas is second, Norris is third, Hamilton is fourth, Ricciardo fifth, Sainz sixth, Tsunoda yet to stop, Alonso, Stroll, Perez, the top 10. Let's go down to Jenny Gao.
Yeah, it always surprises me that when they have a penalty, you actually self-calculate it yourself. I think it's race leader Charles Leclerc coming into the pit lane right now. He whizzes past me in his Scarlet Ferrari on his way to you guys' tyres. Look absolutely shot. Let's hope this pit stop is better than the one they've done of Sainz, because that was an absolute disaster. So race leader into the pits. But yeah, Mercedes self-regulate that tyre that stop. So the hold, 10 seconds, they had the stopwatch. It was up to them.
Well, into the pits now comes race leader Charles Leclerc, as you say. Will it be neat and tidy this time? The front left has no such troubles, and away goes Leclerc, 2.6 seconds. Very smart stop for Ferrari, and Charles Leclerc leads the British Grand Prix for the Ferrari team. He's coming through the right-hander at turn 4 now. Valtteri Bottas is only coming through turn 1. Huge advantage for Leclerc. Lap 30 of 52, we're past half race distance.
He's an awfully long way out front, Charles Leclerc. Now Hamilton's taken that 10-second penalty. Bottas, of course, stuck behind Lando Norris for the first phase of the race. He is now 4 seconds clear of Norris, who's got Hamilton 2 seconds behind him. They are second, third and fourth, but Bottas 7 seconds down on Charles Leclerc. Leclerc with fresher tyres as well to go to the end. There should be no tyre dramas for Leclerc to do 22 laps on this set of hard tyres, so long as the car holds together, which is the question mark for him. A lot of problems with the power dropping out in that first part of the race. That's the hope. And for Ferrari, a good pit stop when it counted for the man that could win the race. Gutting for Carlos Sainz to lose so much time. He's now back behind Daniel Ricciardo, having put in a string of really fast laps to overcut him in the first place. He's down in 6th now. That slow stop is so frustrating when you're behind the wheel. There's nothing you can do. You're just relying on your mechanics.
And then what, do you get back after the race? Oh, no worries, guys. These things happen.
Of course you do. These are the guys, they work so hard in the team, though. Their mechanics are pretty much the unsung heroes of a Formula One team. They do the longest hours. They repair your car if it ends up in the wall. And from time to time, things do go wrong at pit stops. There will be analysis, of course, of what exactly happened there, why Sainz's left front was very sticky when it was going on. But it happens, and it's a very hot day as well for the mechanics. Remember, they're wearing all the overalls. They're in the pit lane, not getting a lot of air in their garages as well. And there has been a number of slow stops. They'll all be analysed, but these things happen. It's part of the game. It's a team sport.
Lap 31 of 52, the British Grand Prix here on BBC Radio Northampton and the BBC Sport website and app. Former F1 driver Jolyon Palmer alongside me, Jack Nicholls, here at Silverstone. We've got Jenny Gao outside as well, unfortunately for her, in these hot weather conditions. We got a little bit of aircon in here. It's not great. I'm not gonna lie, but it's going to be considerably hotter out there. Here comes Lewis Hamilton, right behind Lando Norris. Is he going to go for it at Copse Corner to prove a point? I think he is. Hamilton to the inside, goes past Lando Norris and up into 3rd place. So Hamilton up into 3rd, Norris down to 4th. Leclerc still leads the Grand Prix with Bottas in 2nd position.
Slightly further up the inside for Hamilton that time, and Norris not fighting him hard at all. I think he knew he was a bit of a sitting duck. Now Hamilton charging on marginally fresher tyres in a Mercedes that had the pace to be fastest qualifier on Friday. What can Hamilton do now? Next man ahead is Valtteri Bottas, teammate. Will Mercedes pull rank on Bottas, get him to jump out the way so Hamilton can try and hunt down Charles Leclerc for this win?
Jenny Gao. Oh, hang on, team radio. Nice one, Lewis Hamilton. Jenny Gao.
Yes, thank you. The sun is actually baking down on everybody here. And it's a funny old pit lane as well, because everybody's out of order from where they usually are. You've got Mercedes right in the middle of the order. I think it's Alpine that are one of the first garages that you come into. And I just wonder, can that have an effect? Can that just disrupt everybody into, you know, they're so used to the normality of how they all line up, where they all go. But it is, as you say, incredibly hot down here. And this is round 10, and it's been an incredibly compacted calendar over the last few weeks. I think everybody here is exhausted, to be quite frank.
Looking forward to the summer break, no doubt, which comes in August. Lap 32 of 52. Charles Leclerc leading the British Grand Prix. 9.2 seconds clear of Valtteri Bottas, who's 3.5 seconds clear of Lewis Hamilton. Now, Hamilton was a second quicker than Bottas on that last lap. Bottas a second slower than Charles Leclerc, so he may have got traffic that time around, but Hamilton will try and close that gap in.
I think that was Bottas coming through traffic that's cost him a second to Leclerc. The gap was 7 seconds when Leclerc emerged from the pits. Now 9.5. Going very quickly, Leclerc out front. His personal best lap of the race with those new hard tyres. Bottas coming through a bit of traffic. Hamilton's not far away from him though, within 4 seconds.
We've now got to fight for 5th position. The McLaren of Daniel Ricciardo up ahead of the Ferrari of Carlos Sainz. Ricciardo in 5th, Sainz in 6th, and those two are going to squabble it out. Carlos Sainz went a lot further into the Grand Prix than Daniel Ricciardo did on the first set of tyres, so as a result his tyres are going to be a little fresher, and also he's in what looks to be the quicker car this afternoon, but he'll be frustrated, Sainz, because he spent the whole of the first stint up behind Daniel Ricciardo, and then that slow stop has put him behind him when it looked like he was going to come out ahead of him. Lap 33 of 52.
Familiar with this look. Sainz, the back end of a McLaren. The same McLaren as well, Daniel Ricciardo. He had that run of laps that was really, really impressive when he had clear air, but that slow stop has put him exactly back to where he was and what he was trying to avoid by doing those quick laps, to overcut Daniel Ricciardo, not have to pass him on track, which they would have done had he not lost a load of time in the pit stops. But the fact that he could take all that time with a slow pit stop and still be where he was shows just how fast he was. And now he's half a second behind Daniel Ricciardo, coming up to Copse Corner. But there's going to be no lunge for Sainz into that corner on this lap. The pressure's mounting though.
Also a little fight brewing over 7th, 8th and 9th. Fernando Alonso in the Alpine is less than a second ahead of Lance Stroll's Aston Martin, who is only half a second ahead of Sergio Perez's Red Bull car. So, I mean, Stroll has been stuck behind Alonso for 34 laps now, so may be that he won't be able to find a way through, but Perez joining that fight now is going to be interesting. Also, lap 34 of 52.
Bottas is blistering his front left a lot. He might come back towards us towards the end.
So Norris being told that the way Bottas is blistering his front left, he might come back towards us. There's 6 seconds between them. Hamilton hasn't pulled that far clear of Norris, really. There's only 2.4 seconds between them. In fact, Hamilton was 0.3 slower than Valtteri Bottas on that last lap. But Jenny Gao, it's Charles Leclerc leading the Grand Prix.
Yeah, I've just been speaking to Ferrari actually, and they've said that with regards to the radio message Charles been giving about all the problems with his power unit, that it's to do with the engine mapping management. Whatever that may mean, I'm guessing Jolyon might know a little bit more than me, but that's what they're saying. And in the meantime, Lewis Hamilton's father, Anthony, is here. He would... Team radio?
Well done, Daniel, you're doing well, you're doing well.
Daniel, doing well. Yeah, he wouldn't speak because he's too nervous. He said his heart was in his mouth, especially when the red flag was on. But he is here, he's cheering on his son. Let's see what Lewis Hamilton can do.
Well, as far as Hamilton is concerned, it's one of those days to make hay, isn't it? Your championship rival out of the Grand Prix, because you had a collision with him, admittedly. but you need to score the maximum amount of points when you're 33 points back. A third place, third to second, is a 3-point swing. Will Mercedes decide to employ team orders in round 10 of what is going to be, you would say, at least a 20-round championship? It's quite early, but if it's not for the win, is that a bit different?
They had team orders last time, but it was the other way around. Hamilton with an ailing car, and they let Bottas through. Hamilton's on fresher tyres. He's on 5 laps fresher tyres than Bottas. If he gets past Bottas, has he got the pace to go and chase Leclerc? From what we're seeing, I don't think he does. Leclerc's still going along very nicely. 9 seconds the gap over Bottas, 13 seconds ahead of Hamilton. 17 laps to go. He's going to have to be going some to go and catch Leclerc. So I think the Mercedes are maybe going to have a intra-team duel for second place at this rate. And I don't think they're going to be keen to have team orders too soon, unless they think that Lewis can go and catch Leclerc for the win.
That 35 and 52. That's Jolyon Palmer alongside me, Jack Nicholls, and Jenny Gow with you on BBC Radio Northampton. And the sound you can hear is Carlos Sainz in the Ferrari, the Spaniard from Madrid, trying to chase down the Australian from Perth in their fight over 5th and 6th positions. Charles Leclerc, the Monegasque racer for Ferrari, is leading the Grand Prix, 9 seconds clear of the Mercedes of Valtteri Bottas and Lewis Hamilton. Norris 4th, Ricciardo 5th, Sainz, Alonso, Stroll, Perez, Gasly the top 10, Ocon, Raikkonen, Tsunoda, Russell, Giovinazzi the top 15, Latifi, Vettel, Mazepin, Schumacher the top 19. I was actually just thinking this. Ben has just tweeted in hashtag BBCF1 and has read my mind, saying Max would have won easily. And I was just starting to wonder if you could extrapolate that conclusion based on the sort of pace that the Mercedes have compared to the Ferraris and the McLarens around them. Obviously not quite as simple as that, evidently, but it's not as though the Mercedes have just romped clear. It looked like it might be a bit of an open goal once Verstappen was out of the Grand Prix.
Yeah, I'm surprised that the Ferrari pace is certainly enough to keep Mercedes at bay. Still 9 seconds. Leclerc and Bottas both doing their personal best up to the race. Bottas 2/10 quicker than Leclerc, but they're not really flexing their muscles in this race, are they, Mercedes? In the way that Red Bull and Verstappen have done for the last couple of Grand Prix in Austria. Max is going to be hurting right now, not only physically from the big crash, but he'll be thinking that as well. He'll be thinking, could I have done something differently? Could I have given Hamilton a bit more of space on the inside? Did I need to turn in and take all those risks on the first lap? But it's easy to say in hindsight. Those are the sort of things that all drivers, that things don't go wrong in the race. You think back and weigh these things up. It's a tough one, but certainly Mercedes have not had any mind-blowing pace. Really quick on Friday on 1 lap, but race pace so far, not making any great inroads on Leclerc.
George Russell 14th. He's come out, Yuki Tsunoda has come out in front of him still, so Russell has dropped back during the course of this Grand Prix as well. Unable to quite stay with the fight and get involved in the points, despite being 8th quickest in qualifying on Friday. Lost a couple of places in the sprint yesterday, lost quite a few places at the start today, and is dropping further and further back, lap 37 and 52.
With this pace, it's tough to make it to the end. Copy the message.
Bottas saying with this pace, it's tough to make it to the end of the Grand Prix. 9 seconds Bottas is trailing Charles Leclerc on lap 37 of 52.
He's got about 9 seconds back to Lando Norris in 4th place. Bottas pitted the lap after Norris, but he's clearly thinking that he's pushing very hard on those hard tyres, and maybe too hard, as Norris was warned. Some blisters on Bottas' tyres earlier on. Maybe he's going to either have to give the tyres a little bit of an easier time, which is going to see Lewis Hamilton get right onto the back of him, just 2.5 seconds separating the two Mercedes at the moment, or he's looking at having a second pit stop at some point and having a charge at the end.
Well, Hamilton's about to set the fastest lap of the Grand Prix, I think. He's coming through the final 2 corners at Club and out across the line. Loses a bit of pace there, but goes only a 10th slower than he'd managed previously. 7/10 quicker than Charles Leclerc in the lead of the Grand Prix. He's 11.3 seconds back. So it's still a long, long gap and a long way to go on a hot afternoon at Silverstone. The air temperature ticks over to 30.0 degrees now, and still the race order is Leclerc leading, Bottas second, Hamilton third, Norris fourth, Ricciardo fifth, Sainz, Alonso, Stroll, Perez, Gasly the top 10, Ocon, Raikkonen, Tsunoda, Russell and Giovinazzi the top 15, Latifi, Vettel, Mazepin and Schumacher the 19 drivers, Max Verstappen, Jenny Gao the only retirement from this Grand Prix.
Yes, and the FIA, who govern the sport, have issued a statement saying that following the crash, Max Verstappen has been taken to a local hospital for further precautionary checks. I'm hearing that he was feeling lightheaded after the impact, which was big. It was like, I think, around 51 G. We're waiting for confirmation on that. But yeah, a big impact. He felt lightheaded, so he's been taken to a local hospital. I think they're going to do a CT scan when he gets there to check up on him. His father, Jos Verstappen, is here this weekend, so at least he's got a little bit of family to look after him. But a really nasty incident for Max Verstappen.
Yeah, high-speed crash for Verstappen at Cops Corner on the opening lap of the Grand Prix an hour and 40 minutes ago, and we've still got 13 laps to go. We've got less than a sprint race left, though, haven't we? So Hamilton again is going to set the fastest lap of the Grand Prix, a 30.594, 1 second quicker than Charles Leclerc, 10 seconds between them, 12 laps to go. If you can keep up that pace, it's doable, but that pace feels tough to keep up. We'll see what he can do, though. Lewis Hamilton running in third place. His immediate question is what happens when he gets to the back of Valtteri Bottas.
Both Mercedes giving it something at the moment, but Bottas with his personal best is still half a second off what Hamilton's done for the outright best lap of the race. Sergio Perez dives to the pits. He was getting very frustrated behind Fernando Alonso and Lance Stroll. 9th position, with having a couple of tentative looks to try and pass Stroll, but he's bolted in for a second pit stop. He started on the hard tyres, pitted early, went on to a set of mediums, and now Red Bull calling him in again. He's going to tumble down the order, but be on a bit of a charge late on.
At 39 and 52, slowish stop by Red Bull standards anyway for Sergio Perez as he makes his way now back out onto the circuit, and he's dropping a long way down to 15th position, Sergio Perez. In fact, Latifi, I think, has just gone past as well, and Sebastian Vettel. So I understand why they've done it, but that is a lot of track position lost. A lot.
He's got some overtaking to do.
Yeah.
He's going to have some pace with a new set of medium tyres that they put on the car. He's going to have some pace, and he's going to hopefully immediately clear Sebastian Vettel for 16th place. He dives to the inside at Brooklands, and Vettel doesn't fight him very hard. In fact, goes very wide, and Perez neatly goes through. So that's 16th. But he's got 7 more cars to pass just to get back to where he was.
Lap 40 of 52, Jenny Gao.
Yes, just hearing that Helmut Marko, who's one of the bosses at Red Bull, has said of the incident with Lewis Hamilton and Max Verstappen, it was such a reckless, team radio.
Getting hard to follow Valtteri.
Copy.
Hamilton saying it's getting harder to follow Valtteri.
Team order, do not fight with Lewis.
Bottas being told, do not fight with Lewis. There's 1.7 seconds between them. Do continue, Helmut Marko, Jenny.
Yes, he said such a reckless and dangerous behaviour needs to be penalised with a suspension or something like that. Well, Lewis Hamilton got a 10-second penalty, and it looks like Mercedes are now employing team orders to shoot him up the position into second place. What an interesting decision from Mercedes. That's it, they've called the championship. Bottas is certainly a wingman.
Okay, Valtteri, we invert the cars into turn 15 this lap.
Bottas being told we will invert the cars, and indeed Hamilton sweeps to the outside of Valtteri Bottas and gets up into second place then. 9 seconds back from Charles Leclerc. He's setting the fastest lap of the Grand Prix again this time around by the looks of things as he comes out through the 2 right-handers at Club in front of the huge grandstands that are at the back of the Silverstone circuit on the start-finish straight. And as it stands, Hamilton would gain 19 points. He'd still be 14 points adrift of Verstappen, but that is much more manageable than the 33 that it was at the start of the day. A race ban. I mean, calling for a race ban for Hamilton in my mind is madness. I don't mind a discussion about, you know, was it a 5-second penalty, a 10-second penalty? Was it a risky move? Like there are. I can see the arguments either way, but it wasn't a reckless, dangerous manoeuvre.
So, Sebastian, we do have a problem. We're going to retire the car.
Vettel out of the Grand Prix from 17th position. That's just my opinion, but I think chat of a race ban is
it's obviously
classic
ludicrous.
helmet Marco.
Yeah, it's obviously ludicrous. You can have a discussion about was it a penalty, was it not, was it a 5, was it a 10, or a racing incident. But a race ban is obviously ludicrous. But it just hurts Red Bull at the moment, doesn't it? Seeing Hamilton still out there pumping in a fastest lap, he will be eating into that Verstappen advantage that Max worked hard for through 2 races in Austria. They beat Hamilton and Mercedes in France as well. They've been on great form, but they're just about to lose a chunk to Mercedes and Hamilton in one go. Constructors-wise as well, Mercedes second and third. At the moment, Leclerc is doing the perfect job for Verstappen and Red Bull by just denying Hamilton those extra 7 points for the win. But the race is still on. 7.5 seconds. Hamilton is a second a lap quicker than Charles Leclerc, and there's 10 laps to go. This is going to be tight.
Leclerc hoping to become the 4th driver to win a Grand Prix this season after Hamilton, Verstappen and Perez. And Leclerc is at the moment coming through the middle sector. His teammate Carlos Sainz is still trying to chase down Daniel Ricciardo for 5th position. There's still the queue of Alonso, Stroll and, well, it's now Gasly in 9th place. So Gasly has caught the back of Stroll and Alonso. That's where Perez was in that 9th position and then got shuffled back when he made his pit stop. But Gasly has joined the fray too, but no one can get past Alonso, the wily old racer.
He made it work in the sprint, didn't he? It's all that work in the sprint to jump up, get those extra grid spots, and then he's just been elbows out holding on to them for pretty much the entire Grand Prix and a sprint race. So he was the one driver that really made a difference in the sprint, the new format for this weekend, and he's still reaping the rewards with no real race pace at the moment. He's over 20 seconds behind the car ahead, but he's just getting his elbows out.
Lewis predicted to catch Leclerc before the end, so just try to follow him.
Hamilton again sets the fastest lap of the Grand Prix. Once again, he goes more than a second quicker than Charles Leclerc in the lead of the race. The gap comes down to 6.4 seconds. We've got 10 laps to go in the British Grand Prix, and Hamilton is on a charge to try and overcome his 10-second time penalty for a collision with his title rival Max Verstappen and win the Grand Prix at Silverstone. He's got a shot, and that pace is unrelenting.
This is the pace of the Mercedes in clear air. Hamilton is unleashing now. This is the Hamilton pace we saw on Friday over 1 lap. Now we're seeing what he can do. Now he's smelling blood at the Ferrari ahead. He's taken the 10 seconds. He's got nothing more hanging over him. Just a 6-second gap to make up.
Okay, mode race, full push till the end.
Now Charles Leclerc being told to change your engine mode and full push to the end of the Grand Prix. So we'll keep an eye on whether his lap times start to improve now he's been allowed to run in whatever engine mode that is.
He's done a personal best lap of the race, the last lap, but it's still a second slower than Hamilton, who once again did the fastest lap of the Grand Prix. Both of them are cranking it up right now, but we are seeing the superiority of the Mercedes that we've seen all year, to be honest. In qualifying pace, Ferrari were good in Monaco, in Baku, the specialist circuits, but they couldn't live with Mercedes, particularly in Baku, where Leclerc led early on but tumbled down the order. They've got a chance here. Leclerc another personal best lap of the race. I don't think Hamilton's taking a second off him this time. No, it's 7/10. It's going to be so tight though. 5.8 seconds now the gap.
So the gap continuing to come down for the lead of the British Grand Prix. My name is Jack Nicholls. Alongside me in the commentary box here in Silverstone is Jolyon Palmer, the former Renault F1 driver, and out and about in the 30-degree heat is Jenny Gow.
I'm loving it. It's hot. It's a great day, and I'm getting to watch Formula One cars around the final turn at Silverstone.
Did you put your sun cream on in the end, or did you not get around to it?
No, you wouldn't do my back, so I'm going to burn on my back, and it's all your fault. But that's fine. 140,000 fans in here at Silverstone today, and each time Hamilton comes around, closes the gap towards race leader Leclerc. They clear, they clap and they cheer. Even their hero on. It's a fabulous battle, and Sergio Perez in the one Red Bull that's still here is also giving them a thrill, carving his way through the field at the moment on new, fresh, medium tyres. He's just about to do another overtake on Kimi Räikkönen. I think he's having a whale of a time out there.
Yeah, Perez trying to get ahead then. of, he's already got Yuki Tsunoda on this lap somewhere, coming through the right-hander of Village. He's then sent it into the left-hand hairpin at the loop. And, a bit of maybe even contact on the exit there, because Tsunoda held it in. And Tsunoda, therefore, got some DRS, but Perez managed to make the move, and he is now up into 12th position. He's right up behind Kimi Räikkönen, but then the problem is he's got 11 seconds to Esteban Ocon in the final points-paying position, which, with 8 laps to go, is going to be a tricky one. Hamilton sets the fastest lap of the race, and he's finding even more time, and he does go a second quicker again than Charles Leclerc. 4.7 seconds between them. Jenny.
Yeah, it's a thrilling fight down here. Everybody is loving it. Flags are fluttering. They want to see the home man from Stevenage, Lewis Hamilton, overtake Charles Leclerc for the race win here. They're desperate. To give you an idea of the distance, as Charles Leclerc crosses the start-finish line, that's when Hamilton comes right alongside this large grandstand that wraps around the final turn, and they are cheering him on, willing him to win this race.
This is a bit of a Grand Prix for the ages, actually, the way things are turning out. Kimi Räikkönen under big pressure from, a late move there from Sergio Perez coming down into Stowe corner. Räikkönen sweeps across.
So gap's occurred now 5.0. That's another fastest lap. And Leclerc,
I can catch him.
Yes, you can, mate.
Can I catch him? Yes, you bleeping can. And Sergio Perez has dropped back after that late attack from Kimi Räikkönen. He's still in 12th position. Next lap of the Grand Prix coming up. Leclerc is coming through the final sequence of corners now. He comes across the line to set another personal best lap of the race, Charles Leclerc, a 1 minute 30.5. Hamilton comes through to do a 1 minute 29.7.
Group of back markers that may interact towards the end of this race, mate. Let's make the most of it.
They're going to be catching some back markers soon. It's the Alonso, Stroll, Gasly, Ocon queue that they're going to be coming up to fairly soon. Another fastest lap of the race from Hamilton. It feels a little too far, if I'm honest with you. 3.8 seconds the gap, lap 46 of 52. Feels a tiny bit out of reach, but it's doable.
He's going to get there. Yeah. He's going to get there, but can he get there with enough pace, enough tyre life to punch through the dirty air that you get about 2 seconds back? He's almost there. He's 3.5 seconds back now. So give it another couple of laps. He's going to be right there, almost on the cusp of DRS range. But has he got that final little bit to go through the dirty air, get the DRS, and really fight Leclerc for the win? Leclerc will fight this now as hard as Verstappen fought on the first lap. Now they're in a direct fight for the Grand Prix win, and Hamilton's got to think championship more at this stage. You can take risks with Verstappen because you're both in the championship hunt, and if it goes wrong, then in theory it goes wrong for both of you, or the one on the outside today, which was Max Verstappen. But when you're fighting Leclerc, you don't really want to take unnecessary risks there, because it's better to take the points for second. Leclerc is not going to be interested in the points for second. He's going to want the win.
7 points, though. That's a lot of points.
Oh, he'll want it. He'll want it, and he's pushing. And Pete Bonington wants it. We heard the radio message. And it's Silverstone. It's the British Grand Prix. We know how much it means to Hamilton, who can now see Leclerc ahead of him on the main straight.
He's picking up the pace, right?
Lewis, you are looking strong, mate. Just keep it up.
Lap 47 of 52, that last lap, it's another second out of the advantage for Charles Leclerc. The gap comes down to 2.9 seconds between Leclerc leading the Grand Prix and Lewis Hamilton in second place. Valtteri Bottas is in third position. Lando Norris and Daniel Ricciardo fourth and fifth, where they started. Carlos Sainz is still right on the back of Daniel Ricciardo, unable to make a move. Alonso, Stroll and Gasly in 7th, 8th and 9th, all unable to make any moves either. A bit of gravel on the exit of Luffield. I'm presuming that's from one of the cars that they are catching in that fight. Charles Leclerc flashing right through Copse corner. Carlos Sainz is actually rapid through the first couple of corners in the slipstream of Daniel Ricciardo, but Leclerc in the lead of the Grand Prix, looking to win another race. The young, impressive Monegasque racer driving for the Ferrari team, but the gap is coming down and down. Another 3 tenths in sector 1, 3 tenths in sector 2.
Box puncture.
Gasly's got a puncture. Pierre Gasly's got a puncture. There's a yellow flag out in the third sector. It's a spin for Räikkönen. Räikkönen was fighting with Sergio Perez, and Räikkönen has gone around, Jenny.
Yeah, he has. They were fighting and tussling. Perez was in front, then Räikkönen tried to go on the inside, but he couldn't get there. No space for him. He went round, smoke billowing from his tyres. He's got going again, but frustration for Räikkönen. Perez goes through another pace.
5 laps to go. Sergio Perez is up into 11th place, but now Charles Leclerc, the race leader, has got ahead of Raikkonen, who had that spin, and he's now going to come up to the back of the rest of the queue of cars, with Hamilton trying to close him down, Raikkonen trying to go all the way around the outside, and it just run out of room, was squeezed off a little by Sergio Perez, but we'll see what the stewards make of that.
Perez didn't give him any space on the inside, that's for sure. Turned in for an apex when there was a car still there. Raikkonen trying to hang it around the outside. Another one for the stewards, busy day for them. Race on at the front though. I think Leclerc was held back a little bit. Raikkonen rejoined right in front of the race leaders. This is the traffic that Pete Bonington was warning Hamilton about, saying you could profit from this. The crowd are cheering. We've got a race for the win in the final few laps. 1.5 seconds now is the gap. Hamilton's still able to charge. Now he's right in the dirty air zone.
Lap 48 and 52. The gap now 1.6 seconds between them. They're coming up to the back of Nicholas Latifi. No, apologies, I think it's Russell and Tsunoda and Perez and that queue, isn't it? So, no, it is Latifi. They've got to clear Latifi and Giovinazzi first of all. As Leclerc comes through club corner, Hamilton can see the Ferrari driver now so clearly. He's been a speck in the distance for the most part of the second half of this race, but now across the line, lap 49 of 52. 4 laps to go, and Hamilton is almost a second away from Charles Leclerc, crucially just over 1 second away from the Ferrari driver, and Leclerc's going to get a bit helped here because the back markers, if he's close to them at the right point, he'll get the DRS and be able to open the drag reduction system. Meanwhile, Pierre Gasly was fighting with Antonio Giovinazzi over 13th position, coming down into Brooklands corner. He made that move stick. 1.1 seconds between Leclerc in the lead of the Grand Prix and Hamilton in second. 3.5 laps to go.
Where are they going to catch the traffic? At the moment, Nicholas Latifi is the first car ahead. Then it's the Gasly-Giovinazzi scrap, with Gasly on fresh tyres making the move. Latifi still ahead of Leclerc through Copse. And then it's Maggotts and Beckett. And if he doesn't get out of the way here, Leclerc's going to be really held up, but he does. Leclerc through, Hamilton through, and he's within a second.
Hamilton is going to have the DRS. He's going to be able to open the flap in the rear wing and use the drag reduction system to have more straight line speed compared to the Ferrari of Charles Leclerc as they come down towards Stowe corner. Hamilton has reeled Leclerc in. He collided with Verstappen on the first lap, had to wait 10 seconds in his pit stop to serve as a time penalty for that incident, but he's managed to close in on Charles Leclerc for the race lead, and there's going to be 3 laps to go in the British Grand Prix here on BBC Radio Northampton as Lewis Hamilton tries to get ahead of Charles Leclerc to win in front of the British crowd. There's 3 laps to go. The crowd are cheering, the crowd are on their feet, and Hamilton has a shot, but he's not going to get many chances, I don't think, Jolyon Palmer.
This is the shot right now, though, on the brakes into Village. Leclerc's too far back to get the DRS from Giovinazzi, but Hamilton is swarming the back of him into the loop, out of the left-hander. What traction have they got? Hamilton accelerates 7/10 behind. Now he gets the DRS. Is he close enough?
Looks a little too far away, coming down into Brooklands this time. Gets onto the brakes, into the left-hander. Differing line to Charles Leclerc. Leclerc much tighter through Brooklands and Luffield. And now the pressure is building on Leclerc. You can hear how close they are. Hamilton is coming to Copse corner, where he collided with Verstappen. And is he going to go for it again on Leclerc? To the inside, and Hamilton doesn't get into front. Oh yes, he does. Big twitch from Leclerc, and Lewis Hamilton takes the lead of the British Grand Prix with 2.5 laps to go. Hamilton hits the front, collided with Verstappen at Copse on the opening lap, but redemption at the same corner with 2 to go. Hamilton leads, Leclerc second, Bottas third, and he forced Leclerc into that mistake. Takes the lead of the Grand Prix and surely looks set to win for an 8th time in front of his adoring British fans.
All about Copse corner today. It was a really similar situation. Hamilton on the inside, and once again he put a nose in, but he was more cautious this time. He didn't risk the crash with Leclerc, which he did with Verstappen earlier on when he sent it. This time he had the nose in, but stayed more to the apex. Leclerc had the line, stayed on the outside, but then opened up the steering, didn't get hit like Verstappen did, and Hamilton is through into the lead of the race. Leclerc just opened it up. They were really close to tangling again, though.
Jenny, the roof is going to come off this place.
You'd think that England had just scored the winning goal of the Euros. They didn't, but can Hamilton bring it home? He loves this place. He loves the crowd. The crowd love him. Tom Cruise in the Mercedes garage cheering him on as well. If the will of the crowd is anything, Hamilton will come home and take
Just
all the
keep it
points.
Easy on the curbs. Easy on the curbs.
I got it.
Hamilton being told, just keep it.
Copy, Lewis. Just look after it.
Yeah, leave it over.
Just keep it easy is the message to Lewis Hamilton. If it stays like this, the gap at the top of the championship comes down to just 7 points between Max Verstappen and Lewis Hamilton. Hamilton now coming down towards Stowe. Leclerc's got no answer. Leclerc's dropping back. Round the outside goes Pierre Gasly, getting past George Russell and up into 11th position. But Hamilton is going to come through the final few corners to start the final lap of the British Grand Prix. He's won some iconic races here in the past. 2008 in appalling wet weather conditions. He took an absolutely dominant victory and beat the rest of the field by a minute. So many others come to mind. He won on 3 wheels last year. But this maybe is going to top the lot. He went on 3 wheels in front of an empty ex-airfield in Northamptonshire. But now there are 140,000 fans following his every turn, following his every corner, and following him home, surely to win again and to really reignite the championship fight with him and Max Verstappen. And maybe quite literally after their collision on the opening lap.
Sergio Perez is pitted again to take fastest lap. That is Red Bull just saying, we're going to stop Hamilton taking that fastest lap point again. He's down in 16th, Perez. He won't get the point for it, but it's just simply going to deny Hamilton that point. But this is a huge turning point in the championship, just as Verstappen and Red Bull were getting away. You can hear the roar of the crowd. What an eventful afternoon it's been. And now Hamilton's just a few corners away from a huge victory.
A quarter of a lap to go. He's up behind George Russell, of all people, in the Williams. Russell moves out of his way. Hamilton sweeps through Stowe Corner. The grandstands are all on their feet. 140,000 British fans watch Lewis Hamilton turn through Club Corner. Hamilton through the final turn and wins one of the most eventful Grand Prix in history. Hamilton with an iconic victory in Silverstone, collided with Max Verstappen at the first corner, given a penalty, fights back through the field and wins at Silverstone for an 8th time in one of his greatest ever races. Overtaking Charles Leclerc with just a few laps to go. He's loosened his seatbelts, he's punching the air. An absolutely phenomenal race. I say one of the greatest drives of his career. Of course, he got a 10-second penalty for crashing out his title rival. There's no doubt there's controversy around it. But that recovery drive to take the win with 2 laps to go, really something.
That was Hamilton at his best on a charge. You have to say, quite frankly, he's fortunate he didn't end up in a heap with that first lap crash as well. He's fortunate to have escaped in the crash that pitched Verstappen hard into the wall. That could have easily been both of them out in a Senna and Prost Suzuka scenario from 1990. But this time Hamilton was unscathed and he made the most of it. It's a huge turning point and heartbreak for Charles Leclerc in the Ferrari. Great drive from him. First podium of the season, but just a couple of laps away.
Yes! Get in there, Lewis, man. What an amazing drive, an amazing day. Hats off to you there, mate. That was just epic, absolutely. It's first class.
This is James. Well done, mate.
Fantastic drive.
What a great job, guys. This goes to everyone back at the team and the factories. Thank you so much for continuing to push this year. I'm so inspired by you guys. There's a long way to go, but let's keep pushing, guys. I believe in you. Thank you.
Well, mate, we believe in you too. We can do this.
Hamilton driving around. He's got a Union flag on a stick that he is waving out of the top of the car, and so many memories and reminiscent moments, in particular the 1987 British Grand Prix where Nigel Mansell had to pit for new tyres and fought back through the field and overtook his teammate Nelson Piquet in the closing stages. And Hamilton wins again at Silverstone, flying the Union flag out, and he is taking his time, Jenny, on his way back to the pits. Here's some more radio.
We never give up. We never give up. This is still on.
Damn right, Toto, damn right. I want to say a big thank you to all the fans here. Woo! Couldn't do it without you guys.
He is milking this one, running right around the runoff areas at every single corner, right in front of all of the grandstands, and right up to the barrier on the exit of Copse Corner, where Max Verstappen, his title rival, ended his Grand Prix earlier on today. Hamilton made it through, and he has taken the victory. He'll be back with you at some point, Jenny, but he's still halfway around the track.
Yeah, he's having a whale of a time, isn't he? He's taking the car off the track onto the runoff areas, the Union flag waving high above his Mercedes, and he, rightly so, is loving every moment of this. Valtteri Bottas just pulls into the pit lane going round. That shows you how long Lewis Hamilton's taking, because the race number 3 and 2 is Charles Leclerc just coming in, and still no sign of Hamilton from here. But the fans have absolutely loved this. They didn't get a procession, they got vintage Hamilton, they got battles up and down the field. Max Verstappen taken to hospital, we hope he's okay. It was a precautionary check after that accident with Lewis Hamilton, but my word, Charles Leclerc comes in, he'll be disappointed not to have won, but Hamilton rounds the corner, he goes right up to the grandstands. The safety car and medical car are almost overtaking him, he's going so slowly. He can't get out the car and go and celebrate with the fans as flares are lighted in the grandstands, red and white. But my word, he needed the fans today. He needed every little bit of help he could get after that penalty. And they have raised him and elevated him to a new height. He almost crashes into the pit wall as he comes in. He just goes past me, holding in his left hand that flag, and it ripples in the breeze. He gets ushered through and he will go onto the podium. I can see the trophies waiting for him. What a delight for Lewis Hamilton, Jack.
Pulls into the first place position in between Charles Leclerc and Valtteri Bottas.
Such a proud moment for me, man.
Such a proud moment for me, says Hamilton. And you're absolutely right to mention Charles Leclerc. Brilliant drive today from the Ferrari man. Again, proving what a star he is, and unable to replicate Ferrari's victory from 70 years ago. Jenny?
I'm just standing a few metres away from the cars now as the drivers are there, and Lewis Hamilton is sitting on the rear right wheel of his car, taking it all in. I don't think he can believe... Is that Bottas, actually? It's Bottas that's sitting on the rear of his car, waiting for Hamilton. Hamilton gets his lid and takes it off and goes to elevate himself out of the car. Bottas playing his part for the team, letting Hamilton go past him. Team orders implemented, and Bottas just taking it all in as Hamilton, the flag now lying on the front of his number 44 car, struggles a little to get out the car.
Yeah, well, I think he's just taking his time, isn't he, and letting it all soak over him as he stands up now on the front of the car and starts waving the Union flag left to right and round in circles. And then a hug with Valtteri Bottas and a pat on the back from both of them, and then with his mechanics as well. And where's he going to go now? I remember, I think it was my first British Grand Prix where Hamilton first did his crowd surfing, and it was an absolute honour really to be there and to watch that. But he's taking this Union flag. I think he's going for the full run up to the crowds and celebrate. Jumps down the other side, and he's going for the full run here, Lewis Hamilton, with the Union flag, standing on the grass and standing in front of the fans, Jenny.
It's so joyful and joyous for Lewis Hamilton. He's now going to go round towards the front of that. The fans not allowed to flood onto the circuit. They usually are, and as you described before, he's crowd surfed here. He can't do that today because of the COVID regulation, and he now comes back over the barriers. I don't know who gave him that Union flag, but bravo and hats off to them, because it's just been lovely to see him able to be proud of all his achievements, of of Great Britain, of England. He spoke very heartfelt coming into this about the situation at Wembley and the football, and he's brought it home, hasn't he? He's managed to do this, and he's managed to close the gap to Max Verstappen. And my word, if he hadn't have won here, if he hadn't have had a good result, it seemed like the championship might have been out of reach, but Jack, it's very much in reach now.
Yeah, let's hear from our top three, shall we? Jenson Button is speaking to them.
Well, the British Grand Prix never fails to deliver on action. Charles, so close, so close. Two laps too long for you for the win there, but still an amazing drive today.
Yeah, it's difficult to enjoy 100%. Of course, it's been an incredible race. I gave not 100%, but I gave 200%. I gave all of me, but it was just not enough in the last 2 laps. So congratulations to Lewis. He did an incredible job, and it's amazing to see as many fans in the grandstand. It was fun in the car, but lacked just a little bit of pace towards the end.
Yeah, it's tricky, isn't it? You're disappointed with a second place, but I bet before this race weekend you didn't think you'd be fighting for that win right until the end of the race.
Yeah, we definitely did not expect it. We expected it after qualifying to be quite competitive, but not as competitive as now. We've been fighting for the win, which was incredible. Especially on the medium, we were extremely quick. Then on the hard, we lacked a little bit of pace compared to the Mercedes, but overall it's much stronger than what we are used to.
Yeah, you must be very proud of the whole team, how much you've progressed, and it's exciting for the rest of the season for you guys now.
The team is working incredibly well, so I am very proud of the team. Of course, it's great to have this type of races. It cheers up everyone. There's a lot of work, and it shows that we are doing something right and that we are working in the right direction. So we need to keep going like this. It won't be a smooth ride until getting back at the top, but we'll give everything.
Great job, Charles. Valtteri, a little bit hot out there, it looks.
Yeah, and I had no drinks. The drink system didn't work, so.
Oh, wow, that's a tough one. But a good race. Obviously, you're on a very different strategy to first and second. But you made it work pretty well, and you were able to have a really long last stint.
Yeah, I think the weakness today was the starts, and in both race starts, I was wheel spinning quite a bit, so a bit like Lewis yesterday. So that was the weakness. So that made it a bit more difficult, and obviously had to react to the stop of Lando in the beginning. So we stopped a bit too early to be competitive towards the end, but you know, at least we got Lando, and also managed to help Lewis to win.
Considering the early stop, fantastic points. You must be positive and confident moving forward to the next few races.
Yeah, as a team, yes, really good points. So strong weekend in that point of view, and yeah, we'll go again in 2 weeks.
All right, I'll let you go and have a drink. Thanks, Valtteri.
Well,
that's lovely to see, Lewis.
We need
you know
to
how
hear.
much that would have meant to him, the victory, but 8 times British Grand Prix winner. How does that feel?
It's massively overwhelming, and oh God, it was such a physically difficult race. What great weather. We've got the best crowd. Our home crowd is the best. Thank you guys so much. Honestly, there's nowhere we go where we see people like this. They ain't got what we got. I'm so grateful to the fans. You know, I wish everyone to stay safe as always and get home safely. But this is a dream for me today, to do this in front of you all. I couldn't have done it without the great teamwork from Valtteri and the amazing effort from the team.
I'm sure it's not the way you wanted the race to go with your battle with Max. It happens, but your fight back from there was fantastic, and it must be a very difficult mentally when you're fighting back with a 10-second penalty.
It is tough, I think. You know, I've been giving my all this past week. Been in the factory, just giving it absolutely every, trying to uncover performance for this car with the guys, and I'm so proud of everyone for just continuing to work, even though we've had a bit of a deficit. Today, of course, always try to be measured in how I approach, particularly with battling with Max. You know, he's very aggressive. And then today, I mean, I was fully alongside him, and he didn't let me in space. So, but regardless of whether I agree with the penalty, I take it on the chin, and I just kept working. I was like, I'm not going to let anything get in the way of the crowd's enjoyment of the weekend and the national anthem and the British flag.
Excellent. I'm going to let you go and enjoy all of the fans that we have here. 140,000 people cheering your name, Lewis.
So Lewis Hamilton is our winner. The British Grand Prix has been won by Lewis Hamilton. He is delighted, everybody is delighted. A huge thank you to BBC Radio Northamptonshire for having us and for letting us share our airwaves. Lewis Hamilton did it. Join us for the podcast later if you haven't tried it. From all of us at IMG, thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of your day.